Imagine this somewhere beneath your feet, far below the soil, deeper than the deepest cave. The earth is breathing, not with lungs or air, but with heat, movement, and quiet, invisible rhythm. The crust you stand upon is not. Still it rises, shifts, and sighs over millennia. Beneath it, molten rivers glide through ancient stone, whispering to mountains, oceans, and storms above. You don't hear it, but it's there, an endless exhale of the planet itself. Hey guys, tonight we're beginning a journey into that hidden pulse, into the secret forces that shape our world. The story of nature awakening, not as something outside of us, but as something we are part of. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you'd like, share where you're listening from tonight and what time it is where you are. I love reading that tiny lights all over the world, connected through quiet curiosity. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. Beneath our feet, the earth is not silent. It hums a low, continuous vibration that never stops. Scientists call it the microsystem, a kind of background music of the planet. It comes from waves striking coastlines, from wind brushing over the surface, from countless small quakes adjusting the crust. You can't hear it without special instruments, but it's always there. If the earth had a heartbeat, this would be its steady, ancient, patient. Deep below the crust, the planet's mantle is alive with heat left over from its creation. Imagine glowing currents of molten rock slowly rising and falling, carrying energy outward like blood through veins. That slow motion drives the drift of continents, the birth of mountains, and the shaking of the ground. It's strange to think that what feels like solid land beneath us is, in truth, floating on a restless ocean of stone. The surface may appear still, but under it, the world is in constant motion, breathing in, breathing out. Every volcano is an exhalation. From the calm slopes of Hawaii to the ash towers of the Andes, these mountains are the planet's vents, releasing pressure and renewing the surface. Each eruption brings minerals from deep inside the earth back into the air, feeding life in unexpected ways. After a volcanic explosion, the surrounding soil becomes rich and fertile, supporting forests and fields for centuries. Out of fire comes green life. It's one of nature's quiet paradoxes, creation born through destruction. The same forces that destroy cities also build continents. The same magma that consumes forests also lays down the foundation for future ones. If you were to stand on a cooled lava field, still black and barren, and return a few hundred years later, you'd find moss, flowers, insects, birds, a small paradise reborn from ash. The earth's breath may be fierce, but it's never cruel. It simply moves in cycles, reshaping, renewing, remembering. And this breath isn't just downward and upward, it's circular. The air we breathe, the water that falls, the minerals that flow into rivers, all of it comes from the deep earth and eventually returns to it. The hydrogen in your body once danced in the heart of a star. The iron in your blood was forged in a supernova. The very atoms that make you a part of that same cosmic breath. You are, in a quiet way, the earth, breathing through a human form. When we talk about the forces of nature, it's easy to picture storms or earthquakes as violent, random events. But if you listen differently slowly, you start to sense a pattern. Every tremor is part of the planet's balancing act. Every gust of wind, every shift of tide, every crack in the crust, it's all motion seeking stillness. The earth, like a living body, is always finding its equilibrium. In ancient myths, people sensed this long before science gave it names. The Greeks imagined Gaia, a goddess who breathed life into mountains and seas. The Japanese spoke of Namazu, the great catfish who stirred earthquakes with a flick of its tail. The Hindus describe the world as balanced on the back of a cosmic turtle. floating on an ocean of eternity. Different cultures, different stories, but all trying to describe the same truth: the Earth is alive, not in a metaphorical sense, but in a continuous, physical one. Think about the air filling your lungs right now. That air might have once passed through the leaves of a forest, through the gills of a whale, or out of a volcanic vent centuries ago. You are part of the same circulation, the same breathing. When you exhale, the carbon in your breath could feed a plant somewhere tomorrow. And when that plant releases oxygen, it might return to someone else's lungs across the planet. One breath shared, recycled, eternal. At night, when the world quiets, the earth continues to turn. Mountains erode grain by grain. Rivers polish stones. Winds lift sand and sculpt dunes like gentle hands shaping clay. The pace is too slow for human senses, yet the patience of these movements dwarfs everything we know. To the planet, even a century is just a sigh. Geologists sometimes describe the Earth's crust as elastic. It bends and flexes with unimaginable pressure, and when it finally releases that energy, we feel it as an earthquake. But even those quakes' moments of terror to us are part of the same rhythm. The crust relaxes, resettles, exhales. The ground may shake for seconds, but the echo of that motion continues through the mantle for years, fading like the last vibration of a bell. If you could hear the earth, really hear it, not the noise of cities or machines, but its natural soundscape, you'd notice a strange harmony. The low hum of ocean waves, the crackle of glaciers, the distant growl of thunder, the sighing of wind through trees, all of it combining into a single, unending chord. Scientists have recorded these planetary sounds using deep-sea microphones and satellites. They call it the Earth's hum. It's faint but constant, a symphony so vast we live inside it without realizing. Maybe that's why quiet moments in nature feel so calming. When you stand near the ocean or rest in a forest, you're aligning yourself with that slow rhythm. Your heartbeat begins to match the pulse of waves. Your breathing softens, syncing with the wind. For a little while, you remember you are not separate from the planet, you are made of it. So tonight, as you lie there, listening to this story, picture the earth as a great sleeping creature, turning slowly beneath you. Its breath rises through mountains, flows through rivers, drifts into clouds, and circles back again. Every breeze that brushes your skin is part of that same ancient motion, the same breath that has never once stopped since the world began. And when you breathe out, maybe, just maybe, the earth breathes with you. The surface of the earth feels firm, dependable, but beneath it lies a restless world, a vast ocean of molten stone moving with unbearable patience. This is the realm of magma, where heat born from the planet's creation still flows, changing everything above it. The ground you walk on, the mountains you see, even the continents themselves are rafts drifting slowly on this hidden sea. It's easy to forget that the world is not still, but every mountain is a frozen wave of that motion. Every earthquake a brief reminder of the fire below. Deep beneath the crust, temperatures soar beyond 2000 degrees Celsius. Here, rocks behave not as solids, but as slow, sticky liquids. They rise and fall in convection currents, carrying heat outward from the core. These currents move continents like leaves on a pond. A few centimeters a year, perhaps less, but over millions of years, they sculpt entire worlds. Africa drifts north. The Pacific shrinks. Mountains rise where plates collide, and oceans open where they part. Imagine the planet as a gigantic, slow-breathing forge. Its exhalations become volcanoes. Its sighs become rifts, valleys, and mountain chains. The heat within it is not chaotic. It is structured, rhythmic, ancient. Scientists believe much of it comes from the decay of radioactive elements locked in rock: uranium, thorium, potassium, invisible atoms breaking apart. releasing energy that keeps the deep earth alive, a quiet nuclear fire under every step you take. If you could descend into this molten underworld, the air would vanish quickly, replaced by choking pressure and shimmering heat. You'd see glowing rivers of liquid rock, slow as honey, but powerful enough to tear continents apart. At the edges of tectonic plates, magma seeps upward through cracks, hardening into new crust as it cools. This is how the seafloor renews itself. The Atlantic Ocean, for example, grows wider every year along the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, a 65,000-kilometer scar where magma constantly rises, creating new land in silence. And then there are subduction zones, places where old crust sinks back into the mantle, melting and recycling into the deep. Nothing on Earth truly stays still or eternal. It all circulates. Even continents, which seem immovable, are part of this grand respiration. The ocean floor is born, lives, and dies in a continuous cycle. It's the planet's version of renewal, a geology of reincarnation. Volcanoes are its voices. Some whisper softly, releasing steam and gas in gentle sighs. Others roar like thunder, tearing open mountains, spewing ash into the sky, and darkening the world for months. The eruption of Mount Tambora in 1815 was so vast it cooled the global climate and turned 1816 into the year without a summer. Crops failed, skies dimmed, and across Europe, poets wrote of endless twilight. The planet had spoken, and the world listened. But not every volcano is destructive. The islands of Hawaii, Iceland, and Japan exist because of volcanic birth. Beneath them, magma has surfaced again and again, layering rock upon rock, century after century, until islands rose from the sea. On these islands, life followed seeds carried by wind, spores by birds, coral by currents. Out of fire came water, and from water came forests, wings, and song. Nature is never one thing. It is always becoming another. Ancient cultures knew this duality well. The Romans worshipped Vulcan, god of fire and forge. The Polynesians honored Pele, the spirit of volcanoes and creation. To them, eruptions were not disasters. They were the breath of gods, the making of worlds. In Japan, Mount Fuji became a symbol of both beauty and impermanence. To gaze upon it was to feel awe, fear, and serenity, all at once. A mountain that could sleep for centuries and wake without warning. Under modern eyes, we see magma not as myth, but as energy, a potential source of power. Geothermal plants tap into the Earth's heat to produce electricity, turning the planet's inner fire into gentle light for homes. Even here, technology imitates nature's flow, taking what the Earth already gives, softly, continuously, sustainably. It's a quiet conversation between human curiosity and the planet's deep warmth. If you could listen closely, the magma's movement would not sound like an explosion, but like breathing, slow, drawn-out pulses of expansion and release. Seismologists record these murmurs as tremors long before eruptions occur. The ground swells, gases hiss, and deep rumbles echo through chambers carved by molten stone. The Earth doesn't lose its temper suddenly, it warns us. We just have to listen in its language of vibration and heat. And sometimes it speaks through beauty. Lava at night glows like living amber, spilling across landscapes in glowing veins. When it meets the sea, it hisses into clouds of steam, forming new land one grain at a time. From the chaos of molten rock comes the delicate lace of volcanic glass, the black sand beaches of Iceland, the shimmering crystals in basalt cliffs. Even destruction leaves behind art-frozen gestures of the planet's fire dance. Think of the Hawaiian word Pelahonoa Mea, meaning the woman who devours the land. Yet, the same lava that devours also nourishes. Once cooled, It weathers into rich soil where orchids bloom and forests rise. That cycle, burn, rest, grow, is the heartbeat of Earth itself. It's why the same places that once burned are now some of the most fertile on the planet. Tonight, as you imagine the world turning, remember what lies below the slow fire that never sleeps. Every step you take is supported by magma currents older than humanity, older than life itself. When you feel small, think of that vast river of heat beneath you, endlessly flowing, endlessly transforming. You are walking on the surface of a miracle billions of years in the making. And if the Earth could dream, perhaps its dreams would look like this continent's drifting, volcanoes rising and falling, oceans whispering above molten seas, everything in motion, everything breathing together. Look up tonight. What you see may seem calm clouds drifting softly, stars shining through the haze, but the sky is never still. It is a restless ocean made of air, constantly moving, shaping, and reshaping the world below. The same invisible forces that brush gently against your face can, under the right conditions, tear down cities, sculpt mountains, and create new worlds of rain, snow, and storm. The air is not empty, it is alive. From space, Earth's atmosphere looks like a thin blue line, fragile, delicate, and impossibly small against the blackness. Yet that faint halo is what allows every breath, every forest, every life. Without it, the world would be silent and still. The atmosphere does more than give us air to breathe. It creates weather, temperature, sound, and light. It carries warmth from the equator to the poles, spreads seeds across continents, and wraps the planet in a soft, protective blanket. At its heart, the atmosphere is driven by sunlight. Every sunrise ignites the planet's engine. The sun warms oceans and land unevenly, and this imbalance sets the air into motion. Warm air rises, cool air sinks, and wind is born. From these simple beginnings, heat, movement, rotation, comes everything we call weather. The smallest breeze shares the same ancestry as the most powerful storm. High above, in the troposphere, clouds gather like thoughts forming in a restless mind. Each one begins with a single speck of dust or salt, around which moisture condenses. Billions of droplets cluster together until they become visible. When sunlight strikes them, they glow sometimes white, sometimes gold, sometimes a deep bruised violet. The sky paints itself with water and light, and when clouds grow heavy enough, they release their burden as rain. The first drops fall like whispers, then come the patterns of rhythm that have lulled humans and animals for ages. That sound rain on leaves, roofs, and rivers is more than comfort. It is the voice of the planet redistributing water, balancing what is dry and what is wet. Every raindrop is a messenger returning to Earth what once rose as vapor from the sea. But the sky has another mood. When too much heat builds, air currents twist into vast storms. Thunderheads climb miles high, their tops reaching the edge of space. Inside them, air churns faster than the world's fastest cars. Water droplets collide, charging the clouds with static. The sky becomes a living battery, and lightning flashes a single bolt hotter than the surface of the Sunday. For a heartbeat, night turns into day, and the world remembers the power that lives above. Lightning isn't just spectacle, it's alchemy. Each strike fuses nitrogen from the air into compounds that plants need to grow. Without lightning, the soil would starve. Every forest, every field of grain, every meal on your plate owes something to those brief, fierce flashes in the clouds. Destruction and nourishment share the same spark. After the storm, when the air clears, the sky rebuilds itself. Sunlight returns, refracting through droplets still suspended in the air. A rainbow forms a temporary bridge between water and light. It's not really there, of course. It's an illusion of angles and wavelengths, but illusions can still be true in their own way. Every color of the rainbow reminds us that nature's beauty often hides in fleeting balance, the right amount of rain, the right slant of light, the right moment to look up. Above the clouds, the air thins into the stratosphere, where the ozone layer guards life from the sun's harsher rays. Higher still, auroras dance at the poles, born from the solar wind colliding with Earth's magnetic field. Their light ripples like silk curtains across the night, shimmering green and violet. For ancient people, those lights were spirits, ancestors, or signs from the gods. For scientists, they are the planet's defense, made visible, a luminous reminder that even our sky is an instrument of protection. Wind, though invisible, shapes the face of continents. It carves sand dunes, smooths cliffs, and sculpts rock into arches and towers. Over centuries, it moves deserts, carries seeds across oceans, and ferries dust from Africa to fertilize the Amazon. The very soil that nourishes life may have traveled the world many times. What you breathe now might once have passed over volcanoes, glaciers, or jungles. To feel the wind is to feel the earth turning. Each gust carries the memory of faraway places. The breeze that brushes your cheek tonight may have begun weeks ago over a warm sea. It may have tasted salt and rain, risen above mountains, or glided through clouds before reaching you. The atmosphere connects everything, every forest, every wave, every breath. In the calm after a storm, the sky feels cleaner, sharper, as if it has washed itself. Scientists call this effect ionization, tiny charged particles in the air that make breathing feel fresher. It's one reason the scent after rain feels almost holy. The earth has exhaled, the storm has passed, and the air hums with renewal. Ancient civilizations understood this cycle deeply. They named the winds and gave them spirits. The Greeks had Boreas, the icy breath of the north, and Zephyrus, the gentle west wind that brought spring. In Egypt, the god Shu held up the sky itself, separating it from the earth so that life could exist between. And in the Bible's oldest verses, creation begins with breath. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Air, breath, spirit, they are the same word in many tongues. So as you lie there now, breathing slowly, you are part of that same ancient rhythm. The wind outside your window is not separate from you. It enters your lungs, becomes your breath, and returns again to the world. The atmosphere isn't something above us, it is inside us, moving through our bodies in an endless exchange. We are walking pieces of weather storms and calms, inhaling and exhaling with the sky. Next time you look up, remember every cloud is a sculpture of time. Every gust of wind is a story of temperature and sunlight. The air around you is the planet thinking, shifting, and dreaming. And even when you sleep, the sky never does. Above you, the stars shimmer beyond the thin shell of air, watching the world swirl below. The planet turns, the atmosphere breathes, and dawn prepares itself quietly on the other side of night. The sky that builds and destroys is also the sky that forgives, endlessly. If you listen carefully to silence, you might hear something soft beneath it, a rhythm, too slow for ears, too vast for instruments. It is the heartbeat of the ocean, a pulse that has never stopped since the first waters gathered on this world. Every wave that rolls onto the shore, every tide that rises and falls, is part of this ancient rhythm. The ocean does not simply exist, it breathes. Tonight, we descend into that breath. Imagine floating on the surface, the moonlight spilling silver across the waves. Beneath you lies a world larger than all continents combined, deeper than any mountain is tall. Down there, currents twist like veins, carrying warmth, salt, and life around the planet. These underwater rivers are slow, but they shape everything above them: climate, wind, even the color of the sky. The ocean's motion begins where sunlight fades. Near the surface, warm waters dance in loops, stirred by wind and weather. But far below, in the abyss, cold currents creep through the dark, moving as silently as thought. Together, these flows form the global conveyor belt, a circulation so vast it takes more than 1,000 years for a single drop of water to complete its journey. From the Arctic to the Antarctic, from surface to depth and back again, the ocean turns the planet like a wheel. This slow rotation regulates the world's temperature. When cold, dense water sinks in the north, it pulls warmer surface water upward from the tropics. That exchange keeps Europe mild, even when it should freeze under latitude's logic. It keeps coral reefs alive, ice caps balanced, and seasons gentle enough for forests to breathe. Without this silent machinery, the world would burn in some places and freeze in others. And yet, to the eye, the ocean appears so calm. We see only the shimmer of light, the foam on the surface, but below, mountains taller than Everest rise unseen. Volcanoes erupt in black silence, birthing new seafloor. Fissures open like wounds, releasing mineral-rich water so hot it could melt metal. From those vents bloom entire ecosystems, thriving without sunlight crabs, tube worms, and ghostly fish that feed on chemical energy instead of light. In the dark, life found another way. It's humbling to think that most of Earth's life is down there, not up here. Microbes drift in invisible clouds, forming the foundation of every food chain. They exhale oxygen that fills our lungs and capture carbon that cools the sky. Each breath we take owes itself, in part, to plankton floating miles away in oceans we'll never see. The sea does not just cradle life, it creates it, sustains it, and keeps it breathing. Even sound travels differently down there. Whales sing in frequencies that can cross entire oceans, their calls echoing from continent to continent. Blue whales hum at notes too deep for human ears, yet scientists have recorded those songs circling the globe. In the language of low vibrations, the ocean speaks to itself slowly, endlessly, beautifully. There is poetry in the way the ocean hides its storms. On the surface, waves crash and foam, a wild ballet of energy. But beneath, just a few dozen meters down, all is still. Fish drift in calm water as chaos dances above them. It's a reminder that peace and violence coexist in every layer of nature. The same ocean that erodes cliffs also nurtures coral. The same wave that destroys a shore feeds a distant reef. For centuries, humans have feared and worshipped this vastness. Sailors once believed the sea was alive, a living deity with moods. The Greeks called her Thalassa. The Polynesians spoke of Tangaroa, father of all fish. Even today, when satellites map every coast, something inside us still trembles before the endless horizon. The ocean is the last mirror in which we can still see eternity. Scientists call its pulse thermohaline circulation, a beautiful phrase that means heat and salt. The ocean breathes through density. Warm, fresh water floats. Cold, salty water sinks. That constant exchange drives everything from monsoons to the migration of whales. It is the same principle that governs our own blood. The sea is, in a way, the planet's cardiovascular system. Sometimes, the ocean inhales too deeply. During phenomena like El Niño, the currents shift and the planet's weather goes strange. Rains fall where deserts used to be. Droughts appear where jungles stood. Fishermen wait months for the fish that never come. The planet adjusts its heartbeat, and every living thing feels the change. It's as if the world itself takes a deep, uneven breath before settling again. And yet, for all its power, the ocean also gives comfort. Its sound has lulled humans to sleep since before language. The rhythmic hush of waves, the distant roar of surf. It's the sound of time made gentle. When you stand by the shore, your heart unconsciously matches that rhythm. Scientists have even found that listening to ocean waves slows the human pulse. Our bodies remember their origin. After all, the ocean made us. Every element in our blood, iron, calcium, sodium, was once dissolved in seawater. The salt on our tongues carries the memory of tides, billions of years old. When we cry, our tears are small echoes of the sea. We are walking fragments of that ancient heartbeat, carrying its rhythm wherever we go. As night deepens, the surface of the ocean mirrors the stars. You can't tell which glows brighter, the constellations above or the plankton below. It's as though the sky and sea are talking, their lights exchanging secrets across the thin line of the horizon. Maybe they always have. The ocean's surface is where heaven and earth meet two infinities touching in silence. So if you ever feel lost, imagine that heartbeat again, the slow, patient rhythm beneath every wave. The tides come in, the tides go out. Everything that leaves eventually returns. The sea does not end, it only changes form. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, imagine yourself floating on that endless water, weightless, timeless. Beneath you, the world breathes. Above you, the stars listen. The ocean's hidden heartbeat keeps time for them all. If the ocean is the planet's heartbeat, then the mountains are its bones, ancient, patient, and enduring beyond measure. They rise like frozen waves, their crests piercing clouds, their shadows stretching across centuries. To stand before them is to feel small in the best possible way, reminded that time is vast, and we are just passing through. Mountains are not built in moments, they are carved by eternity. Each one begins deep underground, where tectonic plates collide with unimaginable force. When continents meet, the ground crumples like paper, folding upward into ridges and summits. The Himalayas, the Andes, the Alps, all born from continents, pushing, grinding, and refusing to yield. Even now, they are still rising. Every year, Everest grows by a few millimeters, as if the earth itself continues to inhale. But while mountains are born from violence, they age with grace. Over millions of years, rain, wind, and ice sculpt their faces, softening sharp edges into gentler curves. Glaciers carve valleys, rivers polish stone, and time itself becomes an artist. What begins as chaos becomes harmony, an eternal reminder that even the fiercest forces of nature eventually learn the language of patience. If you could hear a mountain story, it would be told not in words, but in layers. Each stratum of rock is a chapter, a record of ancient seas, extinct creatures, and volcanic fire. Some mountains hold fossils of fish high above the clouds, proof that they were once ocean floors. Others hide crystals that formed under crushing pressure, shining like trapped stars inside the stone. Mountains remember everything. The deep heat of the earth, the cool breath of the sky, the passing of ice, ages, and rain. When dawn touches a mountain, it's like watching time awaken. The first light glows on the peaks, spreading downward through mist and shadow. Birds begin to call. Rivers gleam, and the air carries a cold, clean silence that no city can imitate. In that moment, you can almost feel the earth turning beneath your feet, the mountain breathing in light after the long night. For ancient peoples, mountains were the meeting places of heaven and earth. The Greeks placed their gods on Mount Olympus. In the Andes, the Inca believed the Apus mountain spirits guarded their villages. In Tibet, the Himalayas were not just rock and snow, but living beings, wise and watching. Even today, pilgrims climb to their slopes, not just for views, but for presence, for the stillness that hums inside the soul when surrounded by stone that has stood for eons. Science has its own reverence for these giants. Geologists can read their slopes like books. By studying the minerals, they learn how continents moved, how climates changed, how oceans rose and fell. A single rock can tell a story older than language itself. When you pick up a piece of granite, you are holding what was once magma molten and alive, now solidified into memory. Mountains are the planet's autobiography written in stone, and yet they are not eternal. Every mountain, no matter how high, will one day crumble. Wind, frost, and rain wear them down grain by grain, carrying their dust to rivers and oceans, where it becomes new rock again. This slow circle rise, erode, return is the rhythm of geology, the Earth's deep meditation. Even in collapse, the mountain gives back. Its minerals feed the soil, its streams nourish valleys, its stones build future landscapes. When snow falls upon their peaks, mountains become mirrors of the sky. Clouds descend to rest on their shoulders, and storms circle their summits like crowns. In spring, the snow melts into rivers, flowing through forests and plains, delivering the water that sustains nearly half of humanity. From ice to stream to ocean, the mountain's breath completes its journey back to the sea. Sometimes, at high altitude, you can feel something strange, a stillness so complete it hums. The air is thin, the world below distant, and your heartbeat seems to echo in the emptiness. It's not silence you're hearing, it's space. The space between heartbeats, between clouds, between thoughts. In that thin air, you begin to sense what the mountain has known all along, that being still is a form of strength. Mountains also shape weather. As moist air rises up their slopes, it cools and condenses into clouds, creating rain on one side and desert on the other. This process, called orographic lift, is one of nature's simplest but most profound mechanisms, a reminder that form creates function. The shape of a mountain determines where life will flourish and where it will struggle. In this way, mountains are not just scenery, they are the architects of climate itself. At night, their silhouettes are guardians of the horizon, dark and immovable beneath the stars. Ancient travelers used their outlines to navigate, poets to dream, and shepherds to pray. Even now, when satellites can map the Earth in seconds, we still look to the mountains for orientation, not just of direction, but of the heart. They remind us where we are and what endures when everything else changes. In the quiet hours before dawn, mist gathers in the valleys like memory. The peaks emerge first from the darkness, glowing faintly pink. It feels as if the mountains themselves are waking slowly from some ancient sleep, stretching toward the Sunday. Their shadows retreat, rivers catch the light, and for a brief moment, the world seems perfectly balanced between stone and sky. Maybe that's why people climb mountains, to feel time stop. Each step upward peels away the noise of life until only breath and heartbeat remain. At the summit, surrounded by air too thin for words, something within falls silent. The view is not just outward, it's inward too. Up there, above the clouds, you realize that stillness and motion are the same thing. The mountain never moves, yet it is always changing. So, as you drift into sleep tonight, imagine resting your head against a mountainside. Feel the cold stone beneath your palm, the weight of ages humming softly below. You are small, yes, but you are part of something vast, something that remembers. The mountain endures, not because it resists time, but because it becomes time itself. Close your eyes for a moment and listen. Somewhere nearby, even if you can't hear it, water is moving. It might be the faint murmur of a river beneath the ground, the whisper of rain evaporating from leaves, or the slow, invisible drift of clouds turning back into mist. The world is full of this sound, the quiet music of movement, erosion, and renewal. Water never stops. It doesn't rest, it doesn't tire, and it doesn't forget. It flows through everything: mountain, forest, desert, and even you. Every drop that touches your skin tonight has already traveled through countless forms: vapor, rain, snow, river, ocean, cloud. The same molecules that fell on ancient dinosaurs now drift through the air above your city. Water is memory in motion, a story written across time, sculpting the face of the earth with patience no artist could match. Long before humans built roads or rivers had names, water was already shaping the planet. It carved valleys, split rocks, and created the paths that would one day become homes for forests and life. The Grand Canyon wasn't carved by violence, but by persistence, a single river cutting through layers of stone over millions of years. Water's secret is not strength, but repetition. Drip by drip, it conquers mountains. Drop by drop, it changes worlds. When it falls from the sky, rain seems soft and fleeting, yet its touch reshapes everything. It feeds rivers, awakens seeds, and carries minerals from the highlands to the sea. A raindrop landing on a mountain peak might take centuries to complete its journey, slipping through soil, stone, and stream, merging with others until it becomes part of something larger: an ocean, a cloud, a memory. In every cycle, it learns a new shape. Water can be gentle, a stream that hums through moss and stone, a lake that reflects the moon so perfectly it looks like glass. But it can also be wild. Storms churn waves higher than skyscrapers, floods erase roads, and glaciers carve entire valleys in silence. Water never pretends to be one thing. It's calm and chaos, stillness and movement, life and destruction depending on how you meet it. Consider a single snowflake. Each one is a tiny sculpture, unique in structure, delicate as breath. Billions fall each winter, layering mountain and meadow in silence. Under pressure, those flakes fuse into ice, forming glaciers that begin to move. Not fast like rivers, but slow and heavy, flowing downhill by gravity alone. Over centuries, those glaciers carve landscapes into smooth curves and sharp ridges. They grind rock into dust, creating fertile soil that feeds forests and fields. The same element that falls as feather-light snow becomes the chisel of continents. When glaciers melt, their water doesn't vanish, it continues the cycle. Meltwater streams feed rivers, rivers feed seas, and the seas feed clouds again. In this endless dance, water transfers the Earth's memories between its forms. It carries salt, heat, and life, linking mountain to ocean, forest to sky. You can think of it as the planet's handwriting, a fluid signature etched across stone and air. In deserts, water is rare, but even there, its absence defines everything. Wind-carved canyons and dry riverbeds are reminders of its former touch. When rain finally comes, it arrives not gently but fiercely, reclaiming its channels, sculpting gullies, and vanishing again. Life waits for it in silence. The cactus, the beetle, the seed buried deep, and when it arrives, the desert blooms overnight. Even a few minutes of rain can bring color, fragrance, and motion to places that have slept for years. In myth, water is both creation and cleansing. The Greeks imagined the river Oceanus encircling the world. The Egyptians spoke of Nun, the primeval sea from which life first rose. In the Bible, the earth begins formless and void, with the Spirit of God hovering over the waters. Across every culture, water is the beginning. It dissolves boundaries, erases lines, and renews everything it touches. When you immerse your hands in it, you're touching the same element that birthed the first cell and carried it toward light. The chemistry of life is really the chemistry of water. Inside every cell of your body, countless molecules swim and collide, repeating the same molecular dances that happen in oceans and clouds. You are, quite literally, a walking ocean. About 60% of your body is water. Your blood, your tears, even your breath are fragments of the planet's cycle. Every heartbeat sends tides through your veins. Every exhale releases vapor into the sky. You are part of the same circulation that began 4 billion years ago. Scientists say that water behaves strangely compared to other liquids. It expands when frozen, floats instead of sinking, and holds heat longer than almost any other substance. Without those oddities, life could not exist. Lakes would freeze solid from the bottom up, oceans would suffocate, and climates would swing wildly between extremes. Nature seems to have written its most perfect code into something so simple, so ordinary, that we forget how miraculous it is. When rivers meet the sea, their fresh water mingles with salt in wide, shimmering estuaries. These in-between worlds are nurseries for countless species, fish, birds, and plants that thrive where two kinds of water embrace. The mixing of opposites creates abundance. It's a metaphor, maybe, for balance itself. Where difference meets, life begins. At night, rivers reflect the stars as if returning their light. The ocean whispers against the shore, erasing footprints only to make room for more. Rain hums against windows, reminding us that we are always surrounded by motion. Even in sleep, the water inside you moves, blood pulsing, breath misting the air. The same rhythm that flows through rivers flows through you. So tonight, as you drift toward rest, imagine lying beside a quiet stream. Hear it weaving through rocks, smoothing them one by one. Feel the cool mist on your skin. That stream is not separate from you. It's your own bloodstream made visible, your own heart mirrored in the movement of the world. Water teaches us that persistence is more powerful than force, that softness can shape stone, and that patience is the greatest strength of all. It is the artist of time, sculpting mountains, feeding forests, and reflecting stars. It never asks permission. It just moves, endlessly, eternally. And somewhere, as you fall asleep, that motion continues: the drip of rain, the curl of a wave, the hidden journey of a snowflake melting into spring. The world breathes, and water answers. Before there was life, there was fire in the sky. Long before trees and rivers and hearts began to beat, the Earth's surface was dark, stormy, and wild. The young planet spun beneath thick clouds heavy with gas and vapor. Volcanoes exhaled steam, oceans boiled, and lightning split the sky again and again. For millions of years, those flashes lit the world, striking oceans and lakes, fusing the simple elements of early Earth into the first whispers of chemistry. Each bolt was more than just light. It was creation in motion. When lightning met the gases of the early atmosphere, methane, ammonia, and hydrogen, it created amino acids, the building blocks of life. From sky to sea, spark to droplet, matter began to organize itself. It wasn't planned or guided. It was a chain reaction of energy meeting possibility. The world was being written in electricity. Even now, lightning carries the memory of that beginning. Each strike is a reminder that life itself is charged, that every living cell is powered by tiny electrical pulses. The same force that split the sky billions of years ago now hums quietly inside your brain and heart. Every thought you have is lightning in miniature small bursts of energy, leaping between neurons, shaping ideas, dreams, and memory. You are the storm, slowed into consciousness. On average, lightning strikes Earth about 8 million times a day. Most go unnoticed, flaring for a heartbeat and vanishing. But every strike changes something, splitting nitrogen molecules in the air, and turning them into compounds plants can absorb. That nitrogen feeds the roots, the leaves, and eventually everything that eats them. Without lightning, there would be no green, no harvest, no forests. Each flash is a spark of fertility, a cosmic gardener tending the soil. The sound that follows the slow, rolling thunder is the sky's echo of that energy. Thunder is not anger or chaos, it's simply air, remembering what just happened. When a bolt of lightning heats the air around it to more than 25,000 degrees Celsius, the air expands faster than sound can travel. The result is a long, low rumble, a voice from the heavens reminding us that even invisible things can have power. In ancient times, lightning was divine. To the Greeks, it was Zeus's weapon, forged from fire and light. To the Norse, it was Thor's hammer, striking across the clouds. In Africa, the Yoruba people saw Shango, the thunder god, dancing through storms. To them, lightning wasn't destruction, it was communication. A message from the sky that life was still moving, still alive, still awake. Modern science has peeled back the mythology, but not the wonder. We now know that lightning begins as a dance between ice and air. Inside storm clouds, droplets and crystals collide, trading electrical charges until the imbalance becomes unbearable. Then the air splits open, and the charge leaps from sky to ground in less than a second. A channel of plasma forms bright, branching, alive. For a brief moment, it connects heaven and earth, literally and electrically. Some strikes never reach the ground at all. They flash between clouds, or even back into the sky, silent and distant. The strangest of these are sprites and blue jets, lightning that shoots upward into the mesosphere, invisible from the ground except on the clearest nights. They look like red tendrils or ghostly fountains rising towards space. Scientists only confirmed their existence a few decades ago, though pilots had been whispering about them for years. If lightning can give birth to life, it can also remind us how fragile life is. A single strike carries enough power to light an entire city for a day. Yet, it chooses to release itself in a fraction of a second, burning trees into sculpture, fusing sand into glass, and carving rivers of light across the sky. Some of those glass forms, called fulgurites, are still found buried in deserts' delicate tubes, where sand melted instantly, frozen proof that lightning once touched the earth there. But lightning doesn't just sculpt sand, it sculpts thought. The idea of sudden inspiration, what we call a flash of insight, is borrowed from it. The human brain, a network of tiny storms, generates billions of electrical impulses every second. Every time you learn something new, small currents shift inside your neurons, creating new pathways. You are, in essence, being rewired by your own internal lightning. The storm that once struck oceans now strikes within us. Even plants feel the echoes of electrical fields. Recent research shows that roots can detect changes in the soil's electric potential, guiding them toward nutrients. Trees respond to the static before storms, drawing water upward in anticipation of rain. Nature remembers electricity as part of its oldest language. When you stand in the rain before a storm, you can feel it in your skin, the air thick with charge, the faint metallic scent of ozone. That smell is the breath of oxygen molecules torn apart by lightning, newly reborn and pure. It's the scent of renewal, the promise of rain and calm to follow. You may not see the bolt, but you feel the memory of it humming through the air. At sea, lightning behaves differently. It dances across the waves, reflected in every crest. Sailors once feared these displays, calling them fire on the water, but they also learned to respect them, for lightning at sea was often followed by rain, wind, and the clearing of oppressive heat. It was both a warning and a blessing, another balance of destruction and relief. Perhaps what makes lightning so captivating is that it's both instantaneous and eternal. Each strike lasts only microseconds, yet its effects echo through ecosystems and time. It reminds us that the universe itself is built on energy-shifting forms, potential becoming motion, chaos becoming pattern. It's a glimpse of the raw process that gave birth to everything. So tonight, as you rest, imagine a storm far away, dark clouds swirling, the air alive with tension. A flash cuts across the sky, turning night into day for a breath. The light fades, thunder rolls, and then comes silence. Somewhere, nitrogen feeds the soil, molecules rearrange, and life quietly continues. Every flash, every heartbeat, every thought, it's all the same current, flowing endlessly from sky to mind, from earth to star. The universe sparks, pauses, and breathes. And in the small, quiet hum between those sparks, we dream. Close your eyes for a moment and feel it, the soft brush of air against your skin, the quiet push that moves clouds and carries scents across the world. The wind is so common that we forget how alive it is. It moves everything: sand, water, pollen, seeds, rain, even thought. It is the unseen sculptor of continents, the silent traveler that links every corner of Earth. The wind has been here since the beginning, older than trees, older than the mountains it smooths, older even than the oceans it stirs. The wind begins as sunlight. When the sun warms the planet unevenly, air near the equator expands and rises, while cooler air rushes in to take its place. That movement, simple, invisible, continuous, creates the circulation that wraps the globe. Some of it moves gently, a whisper through grass. Some of it becomes hurricanes, tearing over seas. The difference between breeze and tempest is only energy, never intention. In ancient times, people believed winds were living beings. The Greeks named them Boreas from the north, bringing frost; Zephyrus from the west, bringing spring; Notus from the south, heavy with storms; and Eurus from the east, a restless wanderer. In Arabia, the wind was thought to carry voices from the desert. In Polynesia, it was the breath of gods. Even today, when science calls it air pressure, something about the wind still feels personal. It moves through us, around us, and within us, like a memory too vast to contain. Every gust begins as an imbalance, a difference in pressure that nature seeks to correct. That search for balance never ends. It simply moves from place to place, creating motion across oceans and continents. Wind is the planet's way of exhaling. It redistributes heat, moisture, and dust, stitching together climates and ecosystems. Without it, deserts would choke in silence, forests would starve, and oceans would stagnate. The wind is the great equalizer, the messenger of change. High above, powerful rivers of air called jet streams race around the planet, guiding weather systems and shaping seasons. They flow at nearly 300 kilometers per hour, invisible highways that carry clouds, storms, and migrating birds. Pilots follow them to save fuel. Geese follow them by instinct. Every flight of wings you've ever seen, every drifting leaf, is reading the wind's invisible map. But the wind also works slowly, patiently, like time itself. Over centuries, it grinds rock into dust, sculpts stone into arches and towers, and moves deserts one grain at a time. The Sahara drifts south and east with each breath, dunes crawling across the land like golden waves. In some places, the wind carves whispering canyons, so narrow you can feel the air sing as it passes. These sounds, the low hum through sand, the flute-like moan in caves, are the earth's quiet language of erosion. At sea, the wind drives everything. It fills the sails of ships, stirs waves, and governs the great ocean currents that carry warmth around the globe. The trade winds once guided explorers across the Atlantic and Pacific, weaving the paths of history itself. Even now, Windmills stand as our attempt to borrow that ancient power, turning its invisible strength into light and warmth. The same breath that shaped mountains now powers our homes. In forests, the wind plays a gentler role. It pollinates flowers, shakes seeds free from branches, and cools the canopy on hot afternoons. Some trees have evolved leaves, designed to flutter in specific rhythms, reducing heat and catching light more efficiently. Others rely entirely on the wind to reproduce: the maple, the pine, the dandelion, all sending their offspring into the air, trusting the invisible to carry them home. There's poetry in the way wind connects opposites. A storm born over the Pacific can bring rain to South America weeks later. Dust from the Sahara drifts across the Atlantic to fertilize the Amazon rainforest. The air you breathe tonight might contain traces of volcanic ash, salt from a distant sea, or pollen from a flower that bloomed a continent away. Every breath is a shared inheritance, a reminder that we are all part of one global exchange. The wind also carves silence. After a storm, when the air grows still, that quiet is not emptiness. It's the world catching its breath. The calm after the gale feels sacred, because it reveals how alive the air truly was before. You notice the small things again: the creak of branches, the chirp of a single bird, the whisper of your own breathing. Calm is not the absence of wind, it is its completion. In mythology, the wind was always a bringer of messages. Prophets listened to it, sailors read it, farmers prayed for it. The Hebrew word ruach means both spirit and wind. The Chinese called it qi, the vital breath of the universe. Every culture, every era has looked to moving air and felt something divine stirring. Because in wind, we see something we cannot hold, cannot see, yet cannot live without. Scientifically, the air around you is never still. Even now, tiny currents swirl invisibly through the room, carrying warmth from your skin, spreading scents, adjusting to every movement. The entire atmosphere is a single connected body in motion. When you breathe out, that breath becomes part of it, diluted, transformed, and carried onward. Someday, perhaps centuries from now, someone might inhale a molecule that once passed through your lungs. That is how infinite the wind's memory is. At high altitudes, the air thins until only the strongest birds and aircraft can travel there. Up there, winds flow smooth and cold, curving with the shape of the earth. In those silent layers, sunlight scatters blue, turning the sky into a living canvas. From that distance, clouds look like islands, and storms look like blooming flowers. The planet seems to inhale and exhale through those wisps, its breath made visible. The wind can also shape the human spirit. On cliffs and plains, it challenges us to endure. On quiet hills, it comforts us with movement when everything else is still. People who live with constant wind sailors, shepherds, nomads, often describe it as a companion, sometimes stern, sometimes kind. It humbles and frees us at once. Tonight, as you lie still, imagine a soft current moving through your room. Maybe it brushes the curtain. Maybe it plays gently with your hair. Outside, leaves shift, and somewhere far away, sand dunes crawl across the night. The same air touches all of it. The same invisible breath links your lungs to every forest, every mountain, every ocean. The wind never ends. It only changes direction. It moves through history, through seasons, through every living thing. It whispers across the planet, reminding the world to keep moving, to keep changing, to keep breathing. And as you drift towards sleep, let that same rhythm move through you. Inhale, exhale. A gentle, invisible conversation between you and the sky. The world breathes, and so do you. In the farthest corners of the world, where the air tastes of salt and silence, something ancient lies asleep. Ice, the slow, white breath of the planet. It does not roar or burn or crash like other forces. It waits. It builds, melts, reforms, and remembers. It has shaped continents, carved valleys, and locked entire eras in its frozen grasp. The story of ice is the story of patience itself, of stillness that moves mountains. Imagine standing in a polar desert beneath a pale Sunday. The horizon stretches endlessly, the snow glowing with blue shadows. Beneath your feet, ancient layers of ice hold the memory of millions of winters. Each layer is a page of time, pressed down by the weight of years. Trapped inside are tiny bubbles of air samples of past worlds, whispers of ancient skies. Scientists drill deep into this frozen library, reading the history of climate, volcanoes, and even cosmic dust. Ice remembers what life forgets. But ice is not only a record keeper, it is a sculptor. When snow falls and never melts, its layers compress into glaciers, vast rivers of frozen time that move so slowly they seem still. Yet they are always in motion, grinding rock to powder, carving valleys, shaping mountains. The fjords of Norway, the Great Lakes of North America, the sharp ridges of the Alps, all were sculpted by the patient hands of ice. It is a craftsman that works in silence, chiseling continents without sound or haste. Under immense pressure, glaciers behave like thick honey, flowing inch by inch downhill. At their base, meltwater lubricates the rock, allowing them to slide even faster. They carry with them stones, gravel, and sand, grinding the landscape beneath into smooth plains. When the ice retreats, it leaves behind fertile soil and lakes that sparkle like mirrors. Out of cold comes abundance, a paradox only nature could create. And yet, for all its stillness, ice breathes. It expands and contracts with the rhythm of seasons, melting under summer's warmth and rebuilding in winter's quiet. The polar ice caps grow and shrink like lungs, exhaling water into oceans and inhaling snowfall from the sky. This frozen respiration regulates the planet's heartbeat, keeping temperatures steady and seas balanced. When ice sleeps peacefully, the world is calm. When it stirs too quickly, everything changes. Inside glaciers, the light changes character. The deeper you go, the bluer it becomes. That color, pure, translucent, almost holy, exists nowhere else on Earth. It's the color of compressed time. To look into the heart of a glacier is to see centuries captured in motion, the slow transformation of snow into crystal, air into silence. Scientists say the sound inside is unlike anything else. A deep hum, a faint crackle, as if the ice itself were whispering to you. At the poles, ice reigns like a sleeping monarch. The Arctic and Antarctic hold nearly 3/4 of the planet's fresh water, locked away beneath endless miles of frost. Beneath that ice, life persists: microbes in brine channels, fish in subglacial lakes, and even bacteria that haven't seen sunlight in millions of years. When explorers drilled into Lake Vostok in Antarctica, they found traces of life beneath 2 miles of ice. The message was clear: even under pressure and darkness, life endures. But ice is changing. As the planet warms, the giants begin to wake. Glaciers retreat, ice shelves crack, and the great white caps of the poles thin each year. The rhythm of freezing and melting has always existed, but now it accelerates. Rivers swell, seas rise, and coastlines reshape. For the first time in human memory, the patience of ice is running out. The giant turns in its sleep, and still, there is beauty in this transformation. When ice melts, it gives birth to movement: rivers flowing from glaciers, waterfalls cascading from cliffs, seas swelling with new tides. Meltwater feeds forests, nourishes crops, and fills lakes that glitter like fragments of sky. The end of one form is always the beginning of another. Nothing is lost. It only changes state. To touch ice is to touch time. A block cut from a glacier might contain snow that fell before humans learned to write. Inside that frozen lattice lies the story of Earth's breath, the levels of oxygen, the ash from long-dead volcanoes, the faint traces of starlight. Every piece of ice is a time capsule, a reminder that the present is always layered with the past. There's also sound. At night in the polar regions, the ice sings. As it freezes and expands, it cracks with echoes that bounce for miles across the empty air. The sound is both eerie and soothing, like a planet whispering in its sleep. Each groan, each pop, each rumble is a conversation between temperature and time. It's the kind of sound that reminds you how alive silence can be. In mythology, ice often represents beginnings and endings. The Norse believed the world was born when fire from Muspelheim met the ice of Niflheim, melting and merging to create life. The Inuit tell of Sedna, the goddess who rules the frozen seas, whose fingers became the animals of the Arctic when they were cut away. In both stories, creation flows from the meeting of extremes heat and cold, stillness and motion, destruction and renewal. Even far from the poles, ice speaks. It hangs from rooftops as icicles, forms frost patterns on glass, and freezes ponds where children glide in laughter. In those small, fleeting shapes, you can see echoes of glaciers, miniature sculptures born from the same process. The universe repeats itself in every scale, from mountains to window panes. And when spring comes, the thaw begins. Streams swell with meltwater, carrying minerals and memory down to the valleys. Ice returns to liquid, to motion, to song. The sleeping giant exhales, and the world wakes again. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, imagine the quiet of the poles, the endless white, the whisper of wind across snow, the deep, slow heartbeat of the frozen earth. Picture yourself as a single snowflake falling softly through that silence, weightless, timeless. You melt, you flow, you freeze again. You are part of the planet's endless breath. In that stillness, remember this: even in rest, the world moves. Even in cold, there is life. And even the slowest, quietest forces can reshape everything. The giant sleeps, but it never truly stops dreaming. Beneath every step you take lies an unseen universe, ancient and busy, weaving the fabric of life one microscopic thread at a time. We walk across it daily, often unaware that it is the quietest organisms, the ones too small to see, that keep the planet alive. Microbes and mycelium, the invisible builders of Earth, have been here since long before trees, fish, or even sunlight reached the land. They are the engineers of existence, working in silence, building worlds grain by grain. Imagine holding a handful of soil. To the naked eye, it looks like dust and grit. But inside that small handful live more organisms than there are people on the planet. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and countless others, forming a living network beneath our feet. These microscopic beings break down the fallen leaves, recycle dead plants and animals, and release nutrients that feed forests. Without them, nothing would rot, nothing would grow, and life as we know it would stop. Every forest, every field, every breath of oxygen depends on this hidden collaboration. Microbes digest minerals, fix nitrogen, and release carbon dioxide, all delicate exchanges that maintain the balance of air and soil. They are the planet's original chemists, transforming decay into renewal. To them, death is not an ending, but raw material for life's next chapter. Among these unseen builders, fungi play a particularly magical role. Stretching beneath forests, meadows, and even deserts are enormous underground webs called mycelium, the root-like network of fungi. It is through these filaments, that the forest speaks. Trees trade sugars, send distress signals, and share resources. A dying tree might send its last nutrients to its neighbors through the mycelial threads. A seedling shaded from the sun might receive sugars from an elder tree hundreds of meters away. The forest breathes not as individuals, but as one living community, connected by threads of fungus finer than hair. Scientists have compared this network to the internet, billions of connections, messages, and exchanges happening constantly. They call it the Wood Wide Web, and it's not an exaggeration. Through electrical and chemical signals, mycelium carries information between species. It helps plants detect drought, disease, and predators. Some trees even recognize their own offspring and direct more nutrients their way. In this hidden society, cooperation is as vital as competition. Microbes, too, have their ancient stories. Billions of years ago, long before animals walked the land, single-celled organisms were already shaping the planet. Cyanobacteria filled the early oceans, releasing oxygen through photosynthesis and transforming Earth's atmosphere. It was the first great revolution of life, a microbial miracle that made breathing possible for everything that followed. Every lung, every leaf, every exhale owes its existence to those tiny blue-green pioneers. Even now, microbes live everywhere, from boiling hot springs to Antarctic ice, from volcanic vents to the clouds. Some thrive miles beneath the Earth's crust, feeding on minerals and radiation instead of sunlight. Others drift through the upper atmosphere, hitching rides on wind currents, seeding rain and snow. Life is not fragile. It is endlessly adaptable, and microbes are its proof. They are not just survivors. They are the architects of endurance. Fungi, on the other hand, are masters of transformation. They dissolve rock to release minerals, decompose fallen logs into fertile soil, and return the nutrients of death to the cycle of life. In autumn forests, mushrooms are just the visible flowers of an underground network that might stretch for kilometers. Some mycelial colonies are so vast they count as the largest living organisms on Earth. One in Oregon covers more than 2,000 acres, an ancient being that has been quietly growing for millennia. Fungi don't just sustain nature, they connect it. In tropical forests, fungal threads wrap around plant roots, creating partnerships called mycorrhizae. These symbiotic bonds allow trees to absorb water and minerals far beyond what their roots could reach alone. In return, the plants feed the fungi with sugar from photosynthesis. It's a perfect exchange cooperation older than mammals, written into the DNA of every forest. Even in the human body, microbes are busy at work. Trillions of bacteria live in our skin, mouth, and gut, forming the microbiome that keeps us alive. They digest food, regulate hormones, train our immune system, and even influence mood. When you feel calm after a good meal or anxious after stress, part of that sensation comes from these microbial partners. You are never alone. Your body is a planet, and its citizens are microscopic. When we die, those same microbes guide us gently back into the earth. They break us down, return our minerals to the soil, and feed the next generation of life. The same invisible builders that helped you live will one day help you transform. It's not morbid, it's the ultimate act of recycling, a continuation of the oldest contract between matter and spirit. Nothing wasted, everything reused. If you could shrink down to their scale, the underground world would look like a glowing city. Filaments stretch like highways, pulses of energy move along them, and droplets of water act as lenses, refracting light in tiny rainbows. You would see roots touching fungal threads, bacteria gliding along tunnels, and minute creatures swimming through the soil's moisture. It's a bustling metropolis of cooperation, unseen yet essential. In mythology, this hidden world has often been sensed, if not seen. The ancient Celts spoke of the green underworld, where roots and spirits intertwined. Many indigenous cultures regard soil as sacred, alive with ancestors' energy. And in Japan, the Shinto tradition teaches that even stones and moss possess kami, a divine spirit that animates everything. These beliefs, long dismissed as superstition, now echo what science confirms: the ground beneath us is alive. To walk through a forest is to walk across a living skin. Every footstep sends vibrations through fungal networks. Every fallen leaf becomes food for billions. Even the scent of damp earth, the fragrance we call petrichor, is created by soil bacteria releasing molecules that rise into the air after rain. The smell of rain is literally the breath of microbes awakening. Without them, the world would fall silent. The cycle of decay would stop, the soil would harden, and life would wither. Yet because they exist, the earth remains young. Every forest, every field, every breath is renewed by their unseen labor. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, imagine sinking slowly into the ground, not as burial, but as reunion. Picture yourself surrounded by a glowing web of life, warm and breathing. Around you, tiny builders dismantle what was and prepare what will be. Their work is gentle, endless, holy. You are part of that network, even now. The atoms in your body once belonged to stars, oceans, roots, and fungi. You are the forest dreaming of itself, the soil remembering the sky. And somewhere beneath you, the invisible builders continue their work, quiet, tireless, eternal. The world spins, and everything changes. That simple motion, the tilt of Earth and its journey around the sun, creates one of the most profound rhythms in existence, the dance of seasons. It is the planet's heartbeat made visible, a grand choreography of light, color, temperature, and time. Every leaf that turns gold, every flake of snow, every bloom that opens in spring is part of this ancient movement. We live inside it. The reason for seasons lies not in distance, but in angle. Earth's axis tilts at just over 23 degrees, a delicate slant that changes how sunlight falls across the planet as it orbits the Sunday. When the northern hemisphere leans toward the light, summer arrives there, while the southern hemisphere drifts into winter's shadow. Half the world warms as the other half cools, trading sunlight like a shared breath. Without this tilt, there would be no seasons, only monotony, a planet without contrast, without renewal. But because of it, life learns to adapt, to sleep, and awaken in rhythm with the sky. Every organism, from bacteria to birds, feels the turning of the year. Trees measure daylight through their leaves. Flowers open and close according to the length of shadows. Even humans, no matter how urban or insulated, still feel the pull of this cosmic cycle. You sense it in your mood, your appetite, your dreams. The planet turns, and so do you. Spring is the world's deep inhale. After months of rest, the soil softens, roots stir, and the first shoots pierce through frost. It's not loud or sudden. Renewal creeps quietly, a whisper beneath the surface. Streams swell with meltwater, migrating birds return. The air carries the scent of rain and waking earth. Everything is soft, unfinished, and alive with promise. Spring teaches the art of beginning again, not with fanfare, but with patience. Then comes summer, a long exhale of warmth. Light stretches across the sky for hours, thick with energy. Plants grow tall, insects hum, and rivers slow under golden haze. Life revels in abundance, and time itself feels slower, sweeter. Even the nights hum with vitality, crickets singing, stars burning bright over fields that never quite cool. In this season, the earth seems to remember its youth. Everything moves, breathes, and grows as though the world will never fade. But then, quietly, the balance shifts. The air sharpens, shadows lengthen, and the color of light begins to change. Autumn is not an ending, it's a turning. Leaves blaze with fire as trees prepare to rest, shedding what they no longer need. The wind smells of wood and memory. It's a time of harvest, of gathering and gratitude. In nature's language, autumn says, "It is enough." The season of effort gives way to the season of reflection. And then winter arrives, not as death, but as sleep. The land slows, rivers freeze, animals retreat into dens and burrows. Beneath the snow, seeds wait in darkness, dreaming of spring. The silence of winter is not empty. It is full of rest, full of unseen preparation. When the world grows cold, the earth is not dying. It's restoring itself, storing energy for the next bloom. Each season feeds the next. The decay of autumn nourishes spring. The stillness of winter makes space for summer's song. It is the most perfect cycle, an unbroken circle of transformation. We often forget that change is not a flaw in nature, but its most beautiful feature. The world survives precisely because it changes. For thousands of years, humans have marked time by this rhythm. Ancient farmers followed the solstices and equinoxes to know when to plant and harvest. Stonehenge, built long before written history, aligns perfectly with the sunrise of midsummer and the sunset of midwinter. The Maya, the Egyptians, the Persians all built their calendars around the sun's slow dance. Before clocks and calendars, time itself was measured by the tilt of light on the horizon. Every culture found its poetry in this pattern. In Japan, the fleeting cherry blossoms of spring remind people of the fragility of beauty. In India, festivals like Holi and Diwali celebrate the return of color and light. In Scandinavia, midsummer fires burn through the night, honoring the year's brightest day. Even modern holidays, harvest feasts, New Year's rituals are echoes of ancient gratitude for the turning sky. Science, too, sees the elegance of this motion. The Earth's orbit is not a perfect circle, but an ellipse, and its tilt wobbles slightly over millennia, a slow dance that alters climate over ages. Ice ages, tropical epochs, and even the migration of deserts all trace back to these tiny celestial shifts. Our planet breathes in geological time, its seasons stretching far beyond human memory. For animals, this rhythm governs survival. Birds sense the change in sunlight and begin their migrations, sometimes flying thousands of miles guided only by stars. Bears fatten for hibernation. Monarch butterflies travel across generations from Canada to Mexico, chasing the eternal spring. Coral reefs spawn in synchronization with the lunar calendar, releasing life into the sea when tides and moonlight align. Every living thing listens to the planet's clock and moves in step with its music. And within us, the same cycle continues. Our bodies respond to light, to warmth, to rhythm. In summer, we feel energized and outward. In winter, we grow quiet, reflective. We are not separate from this dance. We are dancers within it. The sun doesn't just warm our skin, it regulates our chemistry, our sleep, our mood. The seasons are not around us, they are inside us. When you think of time passing, think not of loss, but of flow. The falling leaves, the melting snow, the rising sap, all are reminders that nothing truly disappears. It only changes form. The tree that looks bare in winter still holds green in its roots. The field that seems dead will soon hum again with bees. Time does not erase it, transforms. So tonight, imagine standing in a wide field under the night sky, the earth turning slowly beneath your feet. Somewhere, spring is blooming. Somewhere else, snow is falling. The same planet holds both beginnings and endings at once, just as you do. The dance continues whether you watch or not, whether you rush or rest. And as you breathe in and out, remember you, too, are part of this rhythm. Each inhale is a spring, each exhale an autumn, each moment of rest, a winter, each burst of creativity, a summer. The universe dances through you in miniature. The seasons turn, the earth breathes, and in its endless cycle of change, there is peace. Deep beneath the mountains and oceans, farther than sunlight or sound can reach, there is a world of fire and metal. At the center of that world spins the Earth's heart, a core made mostly of iron and nickel, hotter than the surface of the Sunday. It doesn't beat like a heart of flesh, yet it moves in rhythm, generating a magnetic field that stretches far into space. This invisible force, born in the darkness below, protects every living thing above. If you could travel to the center of the planet, you would pass through layers of stone and molten rock until you reached the outer core, a vast ocean of liquid metal swirling around the solid inner core. As it spins, electrical currents form, creating a magnetic field that wraps the entire Earth in a protective shield. Scientists call it the geodynamo. To poets, it is simply the pulse of the world. This magnetic field deflects solar winds, streams of charged particles that flow from the Sunday. Without it, those winds would strip away our atmosphere, eroding the air and oceans until the planet became as bare and silent as Mars. Instead, they are pushed aside, guided around the Earth like water flowing past a stone. It is easy to forget that every breath we take, every drop of rain, every life form that exists depends on this unseen guardian humming beneath our feet. Sometimes, the solar wind presses harder. It collides with our magnetic shield, and energy flows along invisible lines toward the poles. There, high in the atmosphere, atoms of oxygen and nitrogen begin to glow, painting the sky with ribbons of green, violet, and crimson. This is the aurora, the light of Earth's heartbeat made visible. To ancient people, it was the dance of spirits, the breath of gods, the sky remembering the sea. To scientists, it is beauty born of magnetism and sunlight. Even animals can sense the field. Birds, turtles, and whales navigate by it, feeling its lines like invisible roads. Monarch butterflies use it to migrate. So do salmon returning home to rivers they've never seen. They do not see magnetic fields the way we see light. They feel them subtle, internal compasses tuned to the planet's pulse. Every migration, every seasonal journey, is a kind of music guided by Earth's inner rhythm. The magnetic field is constantly changing. It drifts and wobbles, sometimes growing stronger, sometimes weaker. Every few 100,000 years, it flips entirely north, becomes south, south becomes north. This reversal doesn't happen overnight, but over centuries, as molten metal deep below shifts its motion. Ancient lava flows record these switches in their minerals, stripes of magnetic history frozen into stone. The Earth, it seems, occasionally turns its heart inside out. We rarely notice this field, though we live inside it every moment. It passes through walls, cities, and skin, touching everything equally. Sensitive instruments can detect its fluctuations, tiny pulses that change as storms rage on the sun or as molten iron stirs below us. Even your body responds faintly. Some studies suggest that the brain's electrical activity subtly aligns with magnetic changes, like a forgotten sense still sleeping within us. For most of history, the magnetic field revealed itself only through one tool, the compass. When ancient Chinese navigators first noticed that a sliver of iron would always point in the same direction, it seemed like magic. The needle aligned not with stars or mountains, but with something unseen. That invisible guidance helped sailors cross oceans, explorers map continents, and travelers find their way through wilderness and fog. The magnetic heart guided humanity long before we understood its source. But this heart is not still. Beneath the crust, molten iron flows in currents thousands of kilometers long. The solid inner core spins slightly faster than the rest of the planet, a quiet rhythm within a rhythm. Each swirl, each convection of liquid metal generates the electricity that keeps the field alive. In this way, the Earth behaves like a colossal dynamo, energy moving within energy, gravity shaping fire, fire shaping life. The sound of this motion can't be heard directly, but scientists have translated its fluctuations into audible tones. The result is eerie and beautiful, a deep, resonant hum, like wind moving through an endless cave. That hum is real, a song made by the shifting of the planet's core. Somewhere beneath your feet, that sound is happening right now. The magnetic field also connects Earth to space. Lines of force stretch far beyond the atmosphere, curving outward to form the magnetosphere, a teardrop-shaped bubble that protects us from cosmic radiation. Within it, particles from the sun spiral and bounce, trapped in invisible belts. Sometimes they break free, streaming into the upper atmosphere as geomagnetic storms. When that happens, radio signals fade, satellites flicker, and lights dance at the poles. The heavens and the earth converse through magnetism. To think of the planet as alive is no metaphor. Its core moves, its field pulses, its surface breathes. Every element of life, from a migrating bird to the glow of the aurora, depends on this inner motion. We are children of that force, shaped by magnetism the way clay is shaped by hands. In myth, people sensed this long before science gave it names. The Greeks imagined Atlas holding up the heavens. The Chinese saw dragons coiling through the earth, their movements causing storms and quakes. In some Native American traditions, the aurora was a doorway between worlds, where ancestors spoke in light. Each story, in its own way, honored the same truth that something deep below connects to something infinite above. When you stand barefoot on the ground, you're touching more than soil. You're touching a web of energy that stretches from your body to the core, and from there to the stars. The magnetic field passes through you constantly, linking you to the pulse of the planet. It is grounding in the most literal sense, a connection between mind, body, and the Earth's own electricity. So tonight, as you rest, imagine the Earth turning slowly in space. Inside, rivers of fire swirl, and an iron heart spins quietly, sending its invisible shield outward in all directions. Above the poles, lights shimmer in response, like the planet's heartbeat glowing in color. The same magnetic hum that guides birds and shields oceans hums gently through you. You are protected by it, shaped by it, sustained by it. The heart of the planet never stops. It turns in silence, guarding a fragile world of wind and water and light. And as you drift into sleep, that magnetic pulse continues, ancient, steady, endless. The earth breathes, the stars listen, and somewhere deep below, the core keeps turning, keeping time for us all. Above the calm of our daily lives, the sky is never truly at rest. Even when it looks peaceful, blue and endless currents of air and moisture are weaving invisible patterns, feeding storms yet to be born. The atmosphere is the planet's canvas, and storms are its brushstrokes, beautiful, terrible, necessary. They are not mistakes in nature's balance. They are the balance. Every gust, every drop, every bolt of lightning is part of a vast, living conversation between earth, ocean, and sky. A storm begins in silence. Warm air rises, cool air sinks, and somewhere between them, equilibrium falters. Moisture condenses into clouds, releasing hidden heat that fuels the spiral. It's a slow ignition, a whisper that becomes a hum that becomes a roar. In the tropics, this can give birth to hurricanes. In the plains, to thunderheads that tower miles high, over deserts to dust storms that swallow the horizon. Every storm starts with the same simple ingredients: air, water, and energy. The difference lies in how long the earth lets them dance. When a storm gathers strength, it begins to move like a living thing. Its winds form spirals, its clouds pulse, and its center becomes an eye, a calm heart inside chaos. The eye of a hurricane is one of the strangest places on earth, serene and blue, surrounded by walls of destruction. From space, these systems look almost deliberate, like flowers blooming in slow motion. Astronauts have said that to watch a cyclone from orbit is to feel awe and sorrow at once, beauty and devastation in perfect symmetry. But storms do not exist to destroy. They exist to redistribute. They carry heat from the equator to the poles, balancing the planet's temperature. They mix ocean waters, stir nutrients, and deliver rain to parched lands. Even the fiercest cyclone is part of the same circulation that keeps life alive. When the air rages, the earth is simply breathing deeply, exhaling excess energy back into balance. In ancient cultures, storms were gods. The Greeks worshipped Zeus for thunder, the Norse feared Thor's hammer, and the Maya honored Chake, Lord of Rain. Across the world, people bowed to the sky's power, not out of ignorance, but understanding. They knew the storm was sacred because it was both giver and taker, destroying fields, yet restoring soil, terrifying in voice, yet gentle in aftermath. The thunder was not anger. It was communication between heavens and earth. Lightning, rain, and wind, each element plays a role in this celestial drama. Raindrops form when tiny particles of dust attract moisture, becoming heavy enough to fall. Each one, though fleeting, carries the weight of countless molecules bound together by invisible forces. When those droplets collide in great numbers, we hear the world's oldest lullaby, the sound of rain. That rhythm has soothed creatures for millions of years. Scientists believe the steady pattern of falling water even lowers human heart rates, aligning our pulse with the planet's own. Then there is thunder, the storm's voice. It rolls across valleys and oceans, echoing between mountains. Sometimes sharp, sometimes distant. It's the sound of rapid expansion, the sky cracking open and healing in the same breath. You can count the seconds between flash and sound to measure how far away the lightning struck. It's a small way of turning wonder into understanding, of finding pattern within awe. Even more mysterious are the tempests we can't see. High above the clouds, lightning dances upward instead of down, forming red sprites and blue jets in the stratosphere. Below the sea, underwater storms stir layers of warm and cold water, shaping currents that can last for centuries. The earth is full of storms in every layer of its being: air, water, fire, even magnetism. The restless sky is just one face of a great emotion. And yet, there is grace in destruction. When a storm passes, it leaves clarity behind. Dust settles, the air smells new. The ozone and petrichor scents of molecules broken and reborn remind us that chaos is part of creation. Forests flattened by hurricanes grow back thicker. Riverbanks overflow, leaving fertile soil in their wake. Renewal hides inside the ruins. Even our emotions follow the same weather. Anger, joy, grief, they rise, break, and calm again. The word tempest once described both storms and moods because humans recognize themselves in the sky. We are made of water and air, subject to pressure and light. A thunderstorm outside often mirrors the one within, and when it passes, both sky and heart clear in tandem. Scientists now use satellites to watch storms in real time, mapping their birth and decay. They've discovered that storm systems pulse like living organisms, their energy cycling through growth, maturity, and dissipation. Each hurricane leaves a signature in the atmosphere, a fingerprint of heat and wind. In this way, the sky keeps a record of its own emotions, always writing, always erasing. The largest storms in the solar system make ours look gentle. On Jupiter, a single vortex, the Great Red Spot, has raged for at least 4 centuries. Its winds faster than any hurricane on Earth. On Saturn, lightning bolts thousands of times stronger than ours flash through clouds of ammonia and methane. Even Venus, cloaked in perpetual haze, whirls under winds that circle the planet in just 4 days. Storms are not unique to Earth. They are the universe's language of movement. But unlike other worlds, our storms give life. They fill rivers, cool forests, and feed oceans. Without them, the air would stagnate and the seas would die. In this way, a thundercloud is a kind of mercy, a moment when the world chooses motion over stillness, renewal over rot. Each flash of lightning, each crash of thunder, is a heartbeat of the living planet. When the storm fades, a quiet descends that feels almost sacred. Birds emerge. Light filters through clearing clouds, soft and golden. Drops of rain cling to leaves, trembling in the first rays of Sunday. The air is charged, but calm, as if the earth itself is exhaling. That silence after the storm is the planet's sigh of relief, a reminder that even the fiercest tempests pass. So tonight, as you listen to distant thunder or the soft rhythm of rain on your window, remember, you are hearing the same music that shaped mountains, carved rivers, and balanced the sky. The storm is not an interruption of peace, it is part of it. Let the wind rise and fade. Let the lightning come and go. Everything that stirs eventually settles. Even the restless sky finds its rest in time. Somewhere right now, in the quiet of dawn, light is touching a leaf for the first time today. Within that leaf, an ancient miracle begins, a process so common we forget it's sacred. It is photosynthesis, the secret alchemy of life. Plants, those patient chemists of the earth, take sunlight, water, and air and turn them into everything you see: wood, fruit, oxygen, and the food that sustains nearly every creature on the planet. They do it silently, tirelessly, beautifully. The word photosynthesis means putting together with light, and that is exactly what happens. When sunlight strikes the green pigment chlorophyll, it excites electrons, tiny sparks of energy that set off a chain reaction. Water drawn from the soil is split apart into hydrogen and oxygen. The oxygen drifts into the air, where we breathe it in, while the hydrogen joins with carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to form glucose, the simple sugar that fuels all life. Every tree, every blade of grass, every field of wheat performs this invisible magic every day. We call it chemistry, but it feels like grace. Without photosynthesis, Earth would be a barren rock wrapped in choking gas. Billions of years ago, cyanobacteria, the ancestors of plants, began releasing oxygen through this same process, transforming the atmosphere and paving the way for complex life. The blue of the sky, the breath in your lungs, the color of your veins all trace back to those microscopic pioneers who learned to eat light. Even now, plants continue this cosmic exchange. During the day, they open their pores, or stomata, to drink in carbon dioxide. At night, they rest, closing those pores and exhaling a little of what they've made. It's a gentle rhythm. Inhale, exhale, grow. Rest, the same rhythm that underlies all living things. The difference is that while we consume, plants create. They are the original artists, painting the world with carbon drawn from air. Step into a forest, and you're stepping into a vast energy factory, one so quiet you could miss it. Above you, leaves are catching photons, transforming them into sugar. Below, roots exchange those sugars with fungi and microbes in the soil. Each molecule of glucose moves through that web, feeding worms, beetles, birds, and mammals, until it returns again to the earth and sky. The forest is not a collection of trees, but a living network of light transformed into life. Plants do not keep this energy for themselves. They give it away freely. Herbivores eat the leaves. Carnivores eat the herbivores. Decomposers return what remains to the soil. All energy, even the one beating in your heart at this moment, can be traced back to a leaf catching light. You are, in the deepest sense, solar-powered. The food you eat is sunlight, stored in matter and passed from one form to another. Even plants we never notice perform this wonder. Tiny algae in the oceans produce over half of the oxygen on Earth, breathing life into the air we share. Phytoplankton, drifting in waves unseen, are the lungs of the planet. Every second breath you take comes from them. The wind you inhale, the air that fills your room, carries their invisible gift. Photosynthesis is also an act of balance. Plants remove carbon dioxide from the air, the same gas that warms the atmosphere, and store it in roots, trunks, and soil. Forests, therefore, are not just scenery. They are systems of climate regulation, keeping the world habitable. A single mature tree can absorb more than 20 kilograms of carbon each year, silently offsetting the excesses of human fire. The Amazon rainforest alone acts as a vast green lung, exhaling oxygen for half the planet. But this alchemy is fragile. When forests burn or are cut down, the carbon they've stored for centuries returns to the air. The balance falters, the world warms, and the cycle that once sustained us begins to strain. Still, nature persists. Even in burned fields, weeds and wildflowers emerge, reclaiming the soil and restarting the chemistry of renewal. Life's patience exceeds our imagination. If you look closely at a single leaf, you'll see a masterpiece of design. Veins spread like rivers, carrying water and nutrients. Tiny pores open and close like doors. Each cell contains chloroplasts, tiny green laboratories where light becomes sugar. Inside, molecules dance, capturing the energy of photons in a fraction of a second. No machine we've ever built comes close to this efficiency. Plants are nature's most advanced technology, perfected over billions of years of quiet innovation. In ancient myth, plants were often the first teachers. In Egypt, Isis was said to have taught humanity the secrets of cultivation. In Greece, Demeter's gift of grain made civilization possible. In countless indigenous traditions, trees are seen as elders who hold the wisdom of balance and patience. These myths were not wrong. Plants are still teaching us how to live with grace, how to take only what we need, how to transform energy without waste, how to give more than we take. Even the act of breathing connects us to this green alchemy. When you inhale, you take in oxygen released by leaves. When you exhale, you release carbon dioxide that a tree will later use to build more leaves. You and the forest are partners in an endless exchange. You breathe in what it breathes out. It breathes in what you release. Together, you form a single organism, stretching across continents, bound by invisible threads of air. Scientists are now trying to imitate photosynthesis to create artificial leaves that can capture sunlight and turn carbon dioxide into fuel. If they succeed, it may transform our world again, as the first plants once did. But even if we never perfect that technology, we already carry its lesson within us. Light can become life, and life can become light again. As the sun sets each evening, the green world quiets. Photosynthesis slows, and plants rest in the cool air. Yet, the energy they caught during the day remains stored in every fiber and fruit, waiting to be shared. You eat it, breathe it, and become part of it. The sun's journey through leaf and air and blood continues unbroken. So tonight, imagine lying under a tree as twilight deepens. The leaves above you are dark silhouettes, still holding the memory of light. Beneath the surface of each one, quiet reactions continue, invisible but eternal. The tree breathes out what you breathe in. You exhale what it needs. Two lives, one rhythm. The same sunlight that fed the first algae now burns softly in your chest as warmth, awareness, and love. And as you drift towards sleep, remember every breath you take is borrowed from a leaf, and every heartbeat is powered by light that crossed 93 million miles to find you. You are made of sunlight, slowed into life. Take a slow breath in. Hold it. Now exhale. What just left your body, carbon dioxide, will soon become the building block of a tree, or a blade of grass, or a plankton drifting in sunlight. That same carbon has been breathed, burned, and reborn by countless creatures and oceans before you. The planet itself breathes through this cycle, taking in, releasing, reshaping. It is called the carbon cycle, and it is the quiet engine that keeps Earth alive. Every atom of carbon on this planet is ancient. Some were forged in stars long before our sun existed, scattered through space by exploding supernovas, then drawn together to form worlds. When Earth was young, that carbon found its way into rock, air, water, and eventually, life. Over billions of years, it has flowed endlessly through those realms never created, never destroyed, only transformed. It begins in the air. Carbon dioxide drifts in the atmosphere, invisible, yet vital. Plants inhale it through photosynthesis, using sunlight to turn it into sugar. Those sugars feed everything: roots, leaves, flowers, and the animals that eat them. When animals exhale, carbon returns to the air. When they die, microbes and fungi break their bodies down, sending some carbon into the soil and some back into the sky. Every breath, every gust of wind, every fallen leaf participates in this ceaseless exchange. In the oceans, carbon follows another rhythm. Some dissolves directly into the waves, where tiny organisms use it to build shells of calcium carbonate. When they die, those shells drift to the seafloor and slowly turn into limestone. Over millions of years, tectonic forces lift those rocks above sea level, where wind and rain break them apart again, releasing the carbon back into air and water. The planet exhales in stone, though we can barely see it. Volcanoes are the deep lungs of the Earth. When magma rises and erupts, it releases ancient carbon trapped since the planet's formation. That gas joins the air we breathe, the clouds we watch, the storms we fear. It seems destructive, but it is also renewal, the Earth remembering its youth, sharing its inner breath with the sky once more. Sometimes the carbon stays hidden. In swamps and forests, fallen trees and leaves accumulate faster than they can decay. Buried under mud, they transform into peat, coal, or oil over eons. Those fossil fuels are ancient sunlight carbon, captured millions of years ago by plants that no longer exist. When we burn them, we release that stored sunlight and ancient air back into the modern world. Every car, every lamp, every spark of electricity powered by fuel is time reversed. The breath of the carboniferous forests released once again. The carbon cycle moves slowly on its own, an elegant balance of respiration, decay, and rebirth. But in the last few centuries, humans have quickened its pace. We burn billions of tons of fossil carbon each year, sending more into the atmosphere than natural systems can absorb. The planet's breath has grown heavy, and the balance wavers. The air warms, glaciers melt, seas rise. It is not anger from the Earth, but imbalance, a body exhaling faster than it can inhale. And yet, nature remains resilient. Forests still pull carbon from the air, storing it in trunks and soil. Oceans still absorb it, though at a cost their waters grow more acidic, changing the lives within them. Even so, every coral, every kelp forest, Every patch of grass continues the same work, turning air into substance, chaos into order. The earth is patient, even when we are not. If you look closely, you can see the carbon cycle reflected in smaller mirrors all around you. A candle flame turns solid wax into light, water, and carbon dioxide. Your own lungs exchange gases with the world, returning what plants need. A forest fire may look like death, but it is also renewal, releasing nutrients that will soon feed new growth. In every transformation, carbon is there, quietly moving from one form to another, a wanderer between worlds. Scientists call this flow a closed system, but poets might call it a conversation. The sky speaks to the soil, the ocean whispers to the mountains, and all of it passes through us. Carbon ties every living thing together. The graphite in your pencil, the sparkle of a diamond, the breath of a whale, the green of a leaf, they are all different expressions of the same element, rearranged by time and temperature. To trace carbon's journey is to trace life's pulse. In the spring, plants draw it from the air, and global carbon levels dip. In autumn, when leaves fall and decay, it rises again. Even the planet's atmosphere inhales and exhales in rhythm with the seasons' immeasurable breath recorded by satellites, proving that the Earth is alive. When scientists plot that pattern on graphs, it looks like a gentle heartbeat, up, down, steady as sleep. Long ago, before humans understood chemistry, ancient people felt this truth instinctively. They burned wood to stay warm and watched the smoke rise, carrying part of the forest back to the sky. In some traditions, that smoke was seen as the spirit of trees returning home. The ashes left behind, rich in carbon, were spread across fields to renew the soil. Even without equations or instruments, they understood that giving and taking must stay in balance. Today, as we learn to measure and model these exchanges, the story has not changed. The solution to imbalance is the same: to plant, to protect, to participate wisely in the planet's breathing. Each tree planted, each wetland restored, each acre of soil cared for becomes part of the Earth's lung capacity again. We are not separate from this system. We are part of its rhythm. When you sit quietly outdoors and draw a deep breath, you are completing a cycle billions of years old. The carbon you exhale might drift into a nearby leaf, becoming part of its sugar by morning. That leaf might fall, decompose, and feed a root. Years later, it might return to you as fruit or grain, your next meal made from air you once released. Nothing is wasted. Everything circulates. So tonight, imagine the world breathing: forests inhaling, oceans exhaling, volcanoes sighing. Above, clouds carry the carbon of ancient seas. Below, roots drink what we let go. Every molecule moves, every living thing participates. You are breathing with the planet, not upon it. The air around you is not just atmosphere, it is shared memory. What you exhale tonight might one day nourish a tree, a whale, or a child yet unborn. The cycle will continue long after your last breath. In that endless exchange lies a kind of immortality, not of body, but of belonging. And as you drift into sleep, your breath slows to match the Earth's. Inhale, exhale. The world breathes through you as it always has. If you were to shrink small enough to wander unseen through the forests, oceans, and deserts of our planet, you would find the real builders of the world, the silent architects who construct its beauty grain by grain, thread by thread. They are not mountains or rivers or winds, but living creatures so small and numerous that they seem invisible: coral, insects, and countless others who, without intention or glory, have shaped the Earth more profoundly than empires ever could. Begin beneath the sea. There, in the shallow light where warm waters meet sunlight, billions of coral polyps are at work. Each is smaller than a grain of rice, yet together they form cathedrals. A coral reef is not built in decades, but in centuries, even millennia. It is a city made of limestone skeletons, growing upward as generations die and new ones rise upon them. The reef breathes, eats, and glows, a living architecture built by patience. Coral seems fragile, but it has endured longer than most species on Earth. Entire coastlines, from Australia's Great Barrier to the Caribbean, exist because of their steady work. These reefs break waves, shelter fish, and feed millions of people. They are the bones of the ocean, and their construction has outlasted ice ages and storms. Inside each coral lives a partner, a tiny alga that performs photosynthesis. The coral offers shelter, and in return, the alga provides food from sunlight. Together, they form one of the oldest and most perfect partnerships in nature. But when water grows too warm or polluted, that bond breaks. The coral expels its partner, turning white, a phenomenon we call bleaching. It is the reef's version of heartbreak, a silent plea for balance. And yet, even after death, the skeletons remain, ready to be colonized again when the sea heals. Now rise from the ocean to the land, and listen closely. The air hums. Every vibration, every flicker of wings belongs to the insect world, the engineers of the living surface. Bees, ants, termites, beetles, and butterflies, they till the soil, pollinate flowers, and recycle decay. Insects pollinate 3/4 of the crops that feed humanity. Without their quiet labor, fields would wither, forests would thin, and the chain of life would crumble. A single bee visiting thousands of flowers carries the future in its dusted legs. A colony of ants aerates the ground, mixing soil layers as efficiently as any plow. Termites build mounds taller than humans, structures so complex they regulate temperature through ingenious natural ventilation. These are not accidents. They are forms of collective intelligence, an instinctual architecture older than language. Butterflies, ephemeral and delicate, serve a different purpose. They remind the world that transformation is sacred. A caterpillar eats and grows, then dissolves inside its cocoon, only to emerge as something new, an alchemy of form and patience. Even after death, their wings feed the soil with minerals that nourish new plants. Nothing in nature is wasted, not even beauty. Look closer still, and the insect world reveals its artistry. Spider silk, stronger than steel by weight, catches dew like jewels in the morning. Beetles shimmer in metallic blues and greens, mimicking the light of the forest canopy. Fireflies carry tiny lanterns powered by enzymes, turning night into constellation. Each glow is a reminder that life invents endlessly, even in miniature. And like the corals, insects work through time. Their success depends not on force, but on continuity cycles of birth, death, and renewal, repeated billions of times. They are the pulse of evolution itself, testing, adapting, surviving. The first insects appeared more than 400 million years ago, long before flowers or birds. They have witnessed continents drift, glaciers advance, and meteors fall. Their persistence humbles the brief flicker of human civilization. In the grand balance of life, smallness often means endurance. Coral and insects remind us that power lies not in scale, but in cooperation. They are builders of systems rather than monuments. While humans construct towers that crumble, these tiny beings create networks that persist, reefs that outlast ages, pollination webs that sustain ecosystems, soils that regenerate endlessly. In mythology, such creatures were never truly small. The Egyptians revered the scarab beetle as a symbol of rebirth, rolling its sphere of life across the desert like the sun across the sky. Polynesian cultures saw coral as the bones of the sea gods. In many traditions, bees were messengers between worlds, carrying the whispers of the dead into the sweetness of honey. The ancients sensed what science later proved, that life depends on these humble architects more than any king or storm. And in truth, they are everywhere beneath us. Beneath each step, in every handful of soil, millions of insects work unseen, breaking leaves into humus, turning waste into fertility, stitching the ground together. They are the artisans of balance, endlessly rebuilding what we consume. Modern science is just beginning to grasp the scale of their influence. Coral reefs cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, but support a quarter of all marine species. Insects outweigh all mammals combined and contribute trillions of dollars of ecological value each year. Remove them, and the planet would fall silent. Rivers would fill with algae, forests would starve for nutrients, and the air would thicken with decay. The architecture of life would collapse. And yet, these creatures ask for nothing. They do not demand recognition or reward. Their currency is continuation. Their cathedral is the world itself. They remind us that creation does not require noise or glory, only time, patience, and connection. At dusk, when the tide withdraws from the reef, millions of polyps extend their tentacles to feed, glowing faintly under the moon. On land, moths flutter towards starlight, and crickets tune their wings to the frequency of night. Together, their movements form a symphony, the quiet hum of the planet renewing itself. So tonight, as you listen to the soft buzz outside your window, or imagine waves washing over coral far away, remember the builders you cannot see. They are working even now, repairing, recycling, renewing. The air you breathe, the food you eat, the beauty you see all flow from their endless labor. You are walking on their architecture. You are breathing their design. The coral's patience, the insect's persistence, the earth's time they live within you. And as you drift into sleep, think of them continuing their silent work beneath stars and seas. The world may rest, but they do not. And because of them, it will still awaken tomorrow. In every forest, there comes a moment when stillness ends. A dry wind blows through the trees. The sun leans low, and somewhere, a spark is born. It might begin as lightning striking an old branch, or the friction of rock against rock, or the unseen heat of the world's pulse rising through roots. Within seconds, that spark becomes flame, and the ancient cycle of destruction and renewal begins again. Fire once feared, as chaos is, in truth, one of nature's oldest healers. To human eyes, fire looks violent. It crackles, devours, and leaves nothing but ash. But beneath that fury, an older rhythm unfolds. For millions of years, forests have evolved alongside flame. Some trees, like the sequoia and pine, cannot even release their seeds without the touch of heat. Their cones are sealed with resin that melts only in fire's presence. The very thing that appears to kill them is what gives them life. The forest burns, and from its ashes rises new growth, fresher, stronger, more diverse. Fire clears what has overstayed. It consumes the fallen branches, the thick undergrowth, the dead matter that chokes the soil. It returns nutrients to the ground, freeing them to be used again. It opens space for light, for air, for seeds waiting in the dark. After a blaze, the earth does not die. It exhales. Charred trunks stand like black monuments to impermanence, and already, from their base, tiny green shoots appear. The language of the forest is not despair, but recovery. Long before humans learned to speak, fire shaped us too. Our ancestors gathered around it for warmth, protection, and community. It cooked food, extended day into night, and became the first teacher of transformation. To tend a flame was to hold a piece of the sun in your hands. Even today, we build our societies around it. Our stoves, our engines, our electricity are echoes of that primal light. But unlike the wild fire of the forest, ours often forgets its balance. It consumes without returning, burns without rest, takes without giving. In nature, fire follows rules. It travels where there is fuel, stops where there is none. Rain ends it, cold quiets it, time renews what it consumed. The burned forest is not ruin, it is transition. Within weeks, the soil darkens with nutrients. Within months, insects and birds return. Within years, flowers bloom from the ash. Fire does not erase it, resets. There are forests that depend entirely on flame. In Australia, eucalyptus trees drop oily leaves designed to ignite easily, ensuring that light and nutrients reach their seeds below. In North America's grasslands, prairie fires sweep across the plains each season, clearing the old to make room for new shoots. The savannas of Africa have thrived this way for millennia, each flame releasing the seeds of renewal. The world's greenest places are often born from its brightest flames. Ancient cultures understood this paradox. In Hindu philosophy, fire is Agni, the sacred messenger between humans and gods, carrying prayers upward in smoke. In the mythology of the phoenix, fire brings resurrection. The bird burns itself into ash only to rise renewed. The Egyptians saw the sun as a divine flame that died each night and was reborn each dawn. Even in the Bible, the burning bush speaks with the voice of creation fire that destroys nothing but illuminates everything. Across all traditions, flame is both ending and beginning. Scientifically, fire is transformation at its purest. It is the rapid release of energy stored in carbon, a process that unites air, heat, and fuel into one fleeting dance. In every spark, the atoms of wood and oxygen rearrange, releasing light, the same light once trapped by photosynthesis centuries before. When a tree burns, the sun it captured long ago returns to the sky. The cycle closes. Energy changes form, but never disappears. There is a strange peace in watching a fire. The hypnotic flicker, the slow collapse of embers into glowing dust, it mirrors the rise and fall of our own lives. Each flame burns fiercely for a time, then softens, then fades. Yet from its residue comes warmth, light, and space for something new. The lesson is universal. Renewal requires release. After great fires, the land looks silent, almost sacred. The blackened soil smells of minerals and smoke. And then, without fanfare, the first signs of life appear: moss clinging to rock, mushrooms rising overnight, ferns unfurling delicate green. Birds return to nest in hollowed trunks. Animals find new trails through the open forest. The ashes, rich in potassium and phosphorus, feed the soil like medicine. What was lost becomes nourishment. Even the sky participates. The smoke of forest fires carries carbon high into the atmosphere, where it scatters light, softening sunsets into hues of rose and gold. Pain transforms into beauty. The same particles that once belonged to trees now paint the horizon. Nothing truly vanishes, it only shifts. In recent years, we have learned again what ancient ecosystems always knew: suppression breeds imbalance. When we try to banish fire entirely, dry wood and brush accumulate until the inevitable blaze becomes catastrophic. Controlled burns, those set deliberately under watchful eyes, restore the rhythm. They mimic nature's cycle, ensuring that the forest continues to breathe. Balance is not the absence of destruction, it is its mastery. Perhaps this is why fire speaks so directly to the human spirit. It mirrors our own transformations, our endings and rebirths, our griefs and recoveries. We burn through loss, through change, through time. Each hardship clears what can no longer stay, leaving behind space for something purer. Like the forest, we too grow from our ashes. In the quiet after the fire, when the smoke has lifted and the air cools, there is a hum beneath the soil, a pulse of renewal. Seeds germinate in warmth, roots stretch through softened ground, and the earth, freshly blackened, begins again. The world is resilient because it remembers how to start over. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine that gentle glow, the forest floor smoldering softly after rain, embers winking like stars. The air smells of smoke and new life. Somewhere in that darkness, a green sprout is pushing through ash toward light. The fire has passed. The world breathes again. And in that breath, there is forgiveness, continuity, and calm. If you could see the invisible threads that bind every living thing, you would witness a web shimmering through air, water, and stone. It is not made of matter, but of energy, light transformed, motion exchanged, warmth passed from one form to another. This flow has no beginning and no end. It is the secret current beneath existence, linking star to leaf, tide to lung, heartbeat to lightning. Everything that moves, shines, breathes, or grows is part of it. Energy, at its simplest, is change, the ability to make something happen. The sun radiates it, the earth stores it, and life endlessly reshapes it. When sunlight touches a green leaf, that energy becomes sugar. When an animal eats the leaf, the sugar becomes motion. When that animal dies, its stored energy returns to the soil, feeding new roots. Every cycle of life is just energy changing masks, continuing its long journey through time. Inside your body, this same flow continues. The food you eat carries sunlight from distant fields. Your muscles turn that stored light into movement, your brain into thought, your heart into warmth. Even the calm rhythm of your breathing is powered by the same exchange that fuels galaxies. The heat you feel in your skin right now is borrowed starlight, slowed down and softened by billions of transformations. The first law of thermodynamics says energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change form. The warmth of a candle becomes light, which becomes heat again when absorbed by your hands. The crash of a wave turns motion into sound. Even death, that most mysterious of transformations, does not end energy. It releases it. The atoms that once composed your body will one day feed roots, drift as vapor, or sparkle as dust. In the universe, nothing is ever lost. If you could slow time enough to watch energy move, you would see it flicker between states, like a melody matter, vibrating, electrons leaping, photons racing. From the smallest cell to the largest star, every system sings this same song. The cosmos is not a machine of separate parts, but a single pulse, resonating in endless variation. Consider a forest again. The sun delivers energy to the leaves. Trees share that energy through mycelial networks, distributing sugar to roots and fungi. Insects feed on the leaves. Birds feed on the insects. Predators feed on the birds. When they die, decomposers return their energy to the soil. It is not hierarchy, it is circulation. Each participant gives and takes, neither hoarding nor wasting. The balance endures because no one owns the flow. Even within oceans, this invisible current shapes life. Tiny plankton capture sunlight near the surface, powering vast food webs below. Whales dive deep, feeding on creatures born of that light. And when they die, their bodies sink to the abyss, feeding entire communities in darkness for decades. From sun to sea floor, the energy travels patiently, finding purpose in every corner. The same is true for wind and weather. When warm air rises and cold air falls, energy shifts position, giving birth to motion. Storms are simply the atmosphere redistributing its wealth. The lightning that splits a cloud in two is energy seeking balance, just as rivers flow downhill and tides chase the moon. Nature is a system forever evening itself out, forever moving toward harmony. The ancient philosophers intuited this long before science described it. The Chinese called it qi, the life force flowing through all things. The Hindus named it prana, the breath of the universe. To the Stoics, it was pneuma, the divine fire animating matter. Each culture found its own word for the same truth, that everything, from thought to thunder, is part of one great continuum of motion. In your own life, you experience these exchanges constantly. When someone smiles at you, their energy transfers in light and expression. When you speak, your breath carries vibration that becomes sound, reaching ears and hearts beyond your own. Even love is a form of energy exchange, a resonance between two living systems, shaping emotion, biology, and memory. Nothing in the world happens alone. It all ripples outward. Energy also connects the past and future. The light of a distant star you see tonight may have begun its journey millions of years ago. Some photons reaching your eyes were born before humans existed. When they touch your retina, they become part of your awareness, a star's ancient energy transformed into thought. You are, quite literally, thinking with starlight. Science shows that this constant flow defines every level of existence. In the quantum world, particles borrow energy from nothing for fractions of a second, creating the background hum that sustains reality. In living cells, mitochondria convert food into chemical fire, driving every heartbeat and breath. Even in sleep, your body glows faintly with infrared light, radiating warmth back to the world. You are never still. You are a river of energy disguised as a person. Sometimes, though, the balance wavers. When energy pools too long in one place, heat trapped in the atmosphere, power hoarded by systems, it leads to imbalance and collapse. The planet reminds us that flow is essential. What is taken must be returned. What rises must fall. To live in harmony with the earth is to live in rhythm, with this circulation breathing in, giving back, letting energy move freely through us. In nature, even waste becomes nourishment. The heat from decaying leaves warms the soil for seedlings. The ash from forest fires enriches the next generation of growth. The sun spends its energy without hesitation, knowing it will return as motion, life, and reflection. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all, that generosity sustains the cycle. Energy hoarded stagnates. Energy shared becomes eternity. When evening comes, this flow quiets, but never stops. The warmth of the day seeps into the ground. The ocean releases stored heat into the sky, and air currents carry that warmth across continents. Every sunset you see is energy in translation, light becoming color, color becoming calm. The glow that fades from the clouds does not vanish. It travels onward, unseen, into the next dawn. So tonight, as you rest, imagine those invisible threads wrapping gently around you. The warmth in your chest once burned in a star. The breath you take was once ocean foam. The spark in your eyes comes from the same energy that lights the aurora above the poles. You are not apart from the universe. You are one of its continuations. Energy flows through you, around you, and beyond you. When you exhale, it becomes the world's inhale. When you dream, it joins the quiet hum of all living things. The current never ends, it only changes hands. Sleep then, as part of that motion. Let the warmth in your heart become light again, carried softly into the night. For billions of years, the planet shaped itself through wind, water, fire, and time. Then one day, it began to shape itself through us. We are not separate from nature, we are one of its latest experiments, one of its most unpredictable forces. Humanity is the newest current in the great ocean of energy, capable of creating beauty or imbalance, compassion or chaos. We are the ripple that can calm or disturb the waters that sustain us. When the first humans appeared, their footsteps were light. They lived close to the rhythm of the land, gathering what grew, hunting what moved, worshipping what shone. Every fire they lit, every shelter they built, was made with an awareness of the seasons, the stars, and the soil. In those early days, we did not see ourselves as masters of the earth, but as part of its breath, one heartbeat among many. But as we grew in number and knowledge, our touch deepened. We learned to plant and harvest, to build and burn, to draw metals from rock and light from fuel. The world began to change faster than before. Forests gave way to fields, rivers bent to our will, mountains became roads. We called it progress, but it was also transformation. The same creativity that painted caves with animal forms would one day send rockets into the stars. We became a geological force, carving the planet in our own image. Every city is a new kind of ecosystem, steel and glass replacing stone and tree, heat rising where forests once cooled the air. Yet even there, nature persists. Grass grows through cracks in pavement. Birds nest on skyscrapers. Rain still falls on roofs and flows down gutters like rivers seeking the sea. No matter how we reshape it, the earth refuses to forget itself. And though our inventions are immense, they are still born from the planet's elements. The metal in our machines comes from its crust. The electricity that powers our world is the movement of its own electrons. Even the internet, that invisible web of thought, depends on undersea cables that pulse with signals through salt water. The more we create, the more we reveal how deeply we remain connected to the source we once thought we had surpassed. Humanity's power is both gift and test. In a single century, we have altered the chemistry of the atmosphere, redirected rivers, and changed the temperature of the oceans. The air now carries traces of our breath, our engines, our fires. Yet within the same hands that cause imbalance lies the capacity for restoration. We plant forests where deserts encroach. We clean rivers once blackened with oil. We learn again to listen to the wind. The ripple we send outward can still be turned to harmony. Think of how small actions travel. A tree planted by one person shades 100 others. A scientist's discovery spreads across nations. A poem whispered in one language finds echo in another. Humanity, for all its noise, is still bound by the subtle law of ripple and return. What we give the world, energy, kindness, destruction, comes back, magnified, changed by distance, but never lost. We are not just participants in Earth's systems, we are translators. We turn sunlight into language, sound into song, emotion into art. A cathedral and a coral reef are cousins. Both are built by countless small hands, layering structure upon structure. One made of limestone, the other of prayer. Both rise from patience, both aspire toward light. Yet for all our mastery, we remain fragile. A single storm can humble a city. A drought can silence an empire. Nature reminds us gently, then fiercely, that balance is not optional. When we take too much, she reclaims. When we listen, she forgives. Humanity's challenge has never been domination. It has always been remembrance. To remember that our inventions are borrowed, our progress rented, our breath shared. In the microscopic world, the carbon we exhale nourishes a leaf. The oxygen it releases feeds our blood. In the cosmic world, the atoms in our bodies were forged in dying stars. Between those two infinities, the small and the vast, our choices resonate. The earth listens, patiently recording our footsteps in soil, our smoke in air, our dreams in the soft rise of temperature. And yet, there is hope. In every generation, people rediscover awe. Children press their faces to glass during rain, marveling at thunder. Astronomers stay awake through cold nights, studying galaxies that existed before humans knew fire. Farmers learn again to rotate crops and heal the ground. Engineers build wind turbines that hum like giant flowers turning toward the Sunday. Across the world, the human ripple begins to slow, soften, find rhythm with the planet once more. We are learning, slowly, to live as part of the conversation instead of over it, to plant with awareness of the water, to build with respect for the wind, to design cities that breathe like forests, that filter light and sound in harmony with the day. Each innovation that imitates nature brings us closer to what we were always meant to be: caretakers, not conquerors. But to restore balance, we must first remember silence. When we pause, really pause, the world answers. You can hear it in the distant roll of waves, in the sigh of trees at dusk, in the heartbeat that matches your own. The earth does not ask for perfection. It asks only for awareness. To feel connection is to begin healing. So tonight, as you rest, think of the world turning slowly under the stars. Imagine every city light flickering like a small sun, every forest breathing, every ocean shifting. Imagine that all of it is one vast organism, and you are one of its cells. Your breath, your choices, your kindness ripple outward through it all. The human ripple is neither good nor bad. It is potential, the energy of awareness given form. With each thought, each act of care, you send a wave through the invisible web that binds everything. The planet listens, and perhaps, somewhere deep below, the Earth's molten heart beats just a little steadier because of it. Night falls slowly across the planet. The oceans turn to mirrors, the forests fade into silhouettes, and the air cools until it hums. The storms rest, the winds calm. The great engines of the earth, fire, water, ice, and life, pause just long enough for silence to bloom. It is in this silence that nature dreams, not as we do, in fleeting images or private thoughts, but through cycles, the slow rhythm of recovery, renewal, and return. Every night, the world sleeps and rebuilds itself. Imagine the Earth from space, glowing faintly beneath the moon. Its clouds drift like blankets over blue seas, and the continents gleam with threads of light from human cities. Yet beyond those lights, darkness reigns, vast forests and deserts breathing quietly, mountains radiating the day's stored warmth, rivers whispering their way home. Every living thing, from coral polyp to bird to whale, surrenders to rest. Energy withdraws, reorganizes, prepares. The planet inhales deeply and holds. Dreaming, in nature, is the art of patience. When winter covers the land in frost, seeds lie buried beneath the soil, waiting. They do not doubt spring, they trust it. Deep under the ocean, coral reefs that suffered from heat and bleaching begin to regrow in miniature, new colonies budding on the bones of the old. High in the atmosphere, ice crystals form around dust and salt, the beginnings of clouds that will one day fall as rain. Even decay has purpose. Fallen leaves feed roots, ash enriches soil, and the world recycles itself in quiet devotion. To dream is to remember balance. For billions of years, the planet has oscillated between chaos and calm, volcanoes erupting, seas receding, life dying and returning. Every species, every element carries this rhythm. Even in catastrophe, Earth does not end. It transforms. The extinction of dinosaurs cleared the way for mammals. The freezing of continents forced life to innovate. Every ending is a question that the next era answers. In this way, the planet's dreams are its plans for survival. Sometimes, the dreams of nature unfold so slowly, we mistake them for permanence. A forest rising over centuries, a glacier creeping down a mountain, a desert shifting grain by grain. These are dreams written in time rather than sound. To the earth, 1,000,000 years is a blink. To us, it is eternity. Yet we live within those dreams, part of their unfolding story. The oxygen in your lungs was once exhaled by a fern that lived before language. The calcium in your bones once rested in coral that bloomed under ancient seas. You are made of remembered dreams. In myth, the earth has always slept and awakened. The Greeks told of Gaia, slumbering between ages, dreaming the forms of creatures yet to come. In Hindu cosmology, the god Vishnu floats on a cosmic ocean, sleeping while universes grow and dissolve from his breath. The Maudi speak of Ranjanui and Papatuanuku, the Sky Father and Earth Mother, embracing in darkness until their children, the elements, pushed them apart to create light. Across every story, one truth remains: creation is born from rest, from the pause between breaths. Even today, science sees the same pattern. Forests regenerate after fires, coral reefs recover after bleaching, and the atmosphere clears when pollution subsides. When given time, the planet heals itself. It is not immortal, but resilient. Beneath the noise of civilization, under the concrete and steel, that resilience waits like a heart still beating beneath heavy cloth. Nature's dream is not escape from life. It is preparation for more of it. Perhaps we are part of that dream. The human story, for all its noise and striving, might be one of the Earth's experiments in awareness, a way for the planet to look back upon itself and wonder. Through our eyes, the universe becomes conscious of its own beauty. Through our hands, it builds, destroys, and rebuilds in miniature what nature does on a cosmic scale. We are, in some strange sense, the planet dreaming of understanding, yet we often forget to rest. Our minds burn like endless summers, producing and consuming without pause. The forests remind us what happens when the rhythm breaks. Even the sun sets. The earth rotates not only for day, but for night, for balance. The dark is not the opposite of creation. It is part of it. Without night, there would be no stars. Without stillness, no growth. Tonight, as you lie in the quiet, remember that the world beneath you is not asleep, but dreaming. Rivers run under ice. Tides shift in moonlight. Trees breathe slower, but never stop. Microbes turn death into soil, and somewhere, a volcano glows faintly beneath its own crust, waiting for the next act. The planet's heartbeat continues, steady and slow. Above you, the sky holds its own dream. The aurora ripples like breath across the poles, painting the air with color. Shooting stars burn for an instant and vanish, leaving invisible trails that will one day seed rain. The universe hums softly, its energy flowing through every atom of air and bone. You are part of that hum, a note in the endless chord of existence. One day, long after we are gone, the earth will still dream. New species will emerge, new mountains will rise, oceans will shift, and the stars themselves will move across the sky. The story will continue, written in waves and wind instead of words. That continuity is not something to fear. It is the comfort of knowing that life never truly stops. It only changes shape. So, let the night hold you. Let your breath slow until it matches the turning of the planet. Feel the warmth within you, the trace of sunlight stored from the day. That light, faint and tender, will return to the dawn. The world dreams, and you dream with it. Tomorrow, it will wake again, renewed. The rivers will shimmer, the forests will whisper, the winds will rise, and somewhere, a seed will push through soil toward the Sunday. And when nature dreams again, you will already be part of that dream woven into its rhythm, quiet and eternal.